Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line, though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now, though, for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's not a second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Hello and welcome to the Virtual World Sportscar Championship of 1981. Round 5 takes us to the Sebring circuit in Florida, USA. I am Tom Kent in the commentary position. Jim Cunningham would be joining us, but due to internet issues over at his end, he's not able to make it. But I do have someone else in the booth with me who knows a thing or two about these beloved machines. That is Becky Ely-Clark, who will take us for the ride of this 120-minute affair at Sebring. And let's introduce Becky into the booth and get a word from her on what she thinks will play out this evening, as we are expected to be racing in darkness, which will make it an almighty challenge, but yet fun for the pack. Becky, good evening.
Good evening and good afternoon, good morning to those of you in that time zone. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, we've got the calendar in front of us. We've been to Daytona, Mugello, Monza, and we went over to Riverside a week ago. Today is Sebring, followed by Le Mans 5 weeks after that, and then it's Watkins Glen on the 25th of July. Then we go to Spa and Road America in August before we take the trip back to the UK at Silverstone, and then it's to Nürburgring, Germany, Pegusa at Enna in Italy, and then we head to Daytona again in November, and we finish off the season at Motorsports Park in Canada and Brands Hatch on the 12th of December. 15 rounds. There are a couple of drop scores involved in this, so it's going to be a long campaign, a long enduring one for these drivers, but yeah, it'll be absolutely thrilling indeed. And as we look at the circuit as well, and in case you're wondering why there is that orange zone, is that on the first lap, any avoidable contact, the drivers will be penalised more severely. But once they get into the blue, it will be less severe of a penalties for any contact that happens through there. That's just for lap 1. For the rest of the race, it's all blue from there. And of course, this track, first built in 1950, we are using the configuration of 1967 to 1982, 8.37 kilometers, 5.2 miles if you prefer. So it's going to be quite a circuit for these drivers to get a handle of, Becky. 2.5 minute lap times approx that they've been set in. But when they do race in darkness, it's going to be quite a challenge for them, isn't it?
It's going to be a massive challenge because this being an old 80s track, there's not a lot of light out there and there's not a lot of track markings either. So unless people know the track well and have built up a nice muscle memory, we could see some big mistakes at night time, especially with some very, very scary concrete filled tyres out on the edges of the track.
Magnus Dahlgren has pretty much concluded the qualifying session that is coming towards its conclusion with a 2-minute 31.3, less than a 10th clear over Bradley Sellers, and Magnus Dahlgren setting a time in the non-turbo Ferrari. So a very, very strong lap time there from him. And we've got a total of 28 drivers registered for tonight. And so they'll be briefed before we go racing. 2 hours is a long time to race in the darkness. How much do you have to concentrate, Becky, on just basically keeping your eyes on the circuit when you've got the headlights on and you're going through some corners? Because you can't really see a lot around Sebring. It's not a circuit where there are floodlights around like you would find perhaps over at Daytona or somewhere like that. It's going to be something else compared to what they raced over at Riverside last week.
So luckily, Don Fireman and Ben Borman, who have put this track together, have added some very handy little features. For some turns, there's a nice flashing arrow down at the hairpin at turn 8, and for others, there's nice reflective boards up on the side that give you your distances. So as long as you're watching out for them and you stay aware of where you are on track, there shouldn't be too many problems. But that does depend on how much people have practiced and whether they really know the track well or not.
Well, some will have practiced more than others, judging by the amount of lap times that they have done. But of course, some may have practiced in their own time as well. I believe Oliver Day has just snatched pole position right at the end with a 2-minute 30.6. That's nearly 7 tenths faster than what Magnus Dahlgren had previously posted. So it feels like Oliver Day may well have just snatched pole position in the Ford Mustang right at the end, in the over 2 litre car that he'll be racing in. And a lot of classes we've got for you. We've got 4 in total. We've got the over 2 litre pros, the over 2 litre AMs, and the under 2 litre pros, and the under 2 litre AMs as well. So the keys to the race is respect the barriers. I think that's pretty obvious. Beware of night driving and the rain as well. And if it does rain, then we're going to be in for a really, really interesting affair this evening. The drivers need to watch their oil temps and to optimize fuel. Now, judging by the fact that drivers are going to need to make 3 stops, when you look at the amount of fuel stop time, that is basically a whole lap of drivers waiting in the box before they leave with 120 litres of fuel in there.
It's a very long time, isn't it? And drivers might have a problem that they might stop a lap or 2 early to get out of the way, out of traffic, and find themselves straight back into that traffic with their pit stops being around a lap long.
And judging by the tyres, there's a one set of the compound of the slicks, and the blue is the wet compound, which they are very much going to need if the conditions are to be treacherous out there, or at least damp anyway. Let's have a look at the championship scores on the doors. We look at the over 2 litre pros, and there we see Nicholas Kirsten at the top of the table with 58 points, with a drop score applied as well. He's a point clear over Dan Herlock, and a further point clear over Eduardo Beninca, who won the opening round of the season. So very close at the top of the table. You've got Alessandro Smeraldi, who has won one of the other races this year, with Oliver Day in 5th place, and it's Johnny Gutierrez. Magnus Dahlgren in P7, and it's Timon Suvic, Mike Bell, Velter de Bruyne, Gilles Lalonde, Dan Kirby, Olian Kunyunski, and it's Robin Molin, Bradley Sellers, Ben Kesby, and Tom Lane, who have yet to score a point so far this season. We look at the team standings as well. Scuderia Brigette Bardo Ferrari with Alessandro Smeraldi and Eduardo Beninca, the 2 drivers competing for them. They're on 124 points, followed by Smile Power Racing, who have got 107. So 17 points the gap between those 2 respective teams. With ME Racing Ferrari in 3rd position on 97. They're not too far away. With Bad Day Racing Ford Saxpeed Mustang with 69, and Retro Monsters Ford Saxpeed Mustang with 40 points there. We look at the over 2 litre AMs, and there we see John Uyan with 60 points. He's 4 clear over Ross Smith and 6 clear over Jerry Chen. So and also Maximilian Petrovsky is a further point back. So 7 points separating the top 4 drivers in that respective class. Steve Carman in 4th place with 48 points. Then it's Del Kruger in 6th with 42. George Angelidis in 7th with 34. Then we've got Vinicius Goncalves, Brian Hall, Ryan Paulbert Reyes, Gilles Lalonde, and Daniel Pass in 12th place, who's yet to get off the mark. In the team standings, SGS Club Italia are on 113 points, 18 clear over MP Tuning Porsche with 95. Then it's Tic Tac Toe Motorsports in 3rd with 89, and Flying Kiwi Racing Porsche with 84 points. Bad Day Racing Mustang have yet to get off the mark, with Gilles Lalonde, who's yet to score a point so far this season. We look at the under 2 litre classes. We begin with the pros. JT Tammy leads the way by 7 points over Ethan Funk. Then it's Ben Bowman in 3rd place on 52 points, and Becky E. Clark in 4th with 51 points. So just 9 points separating those 4 drivers. Benjamin Letalic in 5th place on 46. And then we've got the likes of Matt Wright, Alan Smith, Tony McCofferton, Igor Basink, Alexander Schultz, Dan Porter, Matthew Williams, and James Andrews, who is yet to get off the mark. In the team standings, we look at Martini Racing Lancia, Beta at the top on 148 points, 39 clear over Burgundy Monsters in second with 109. We usually trouble Lotus in third on 103, and we've got SF Motorsport and Craven Racing tied with 44 points apiece. Finally, we look at the under 2 litre AMS. John Mayer is 2 points clear over Matt Overton in second place, and it's a bit of a gap to find Christian Dauger in third with 38, tied with Carl Stroll. Then it's Alex McBean in fifth with 15 points, and then we've got the likes of Eric Monet, G. Sever, Christian Dauge, Max Something Lap, Adrian Rice, and Vasilis Katarinakis, who have all yet to get out of the doldrums. In the team standings, Dark Thunder Racing are in the lead with 114 points, a long way clear over Broke Faster BMW with 38 points to their name. Close in the standings after 4 rounds, Becky, wouldn't you say?
It's extremely close, but that's the nature of this year of the World Sports Car Championship, where the points are only separated by 1 point per position. So top is 20 points, second 19, third 18, and so on and so forth. So you might think like, oh, there's only a 7-point gap there, but a 7-point gap is quite a big margin to overcome.
Indeed. So, and just to clear up a few things as well from last week at Riverside, Eduardo Beninca, who finished second on the road, kept hold of second place after a 25-second time penalty was awarded to him for avoidable contact. And we had a 40-second time penalty as well for Magnus Dahlgren. I don't believe that affected his finishing position because he finished the race 1 lap down and he finished far enough ahead of John Uyen. So Magnus Dahlgren finished 8th on the road overall. And there was one more penalty given out to one more driver in that race. That happened to be, if I get it up, it'll come back to me in a moment. But there's no penalties, as far as we know, that drivers need to serve in this race. So it's all elbows out from lights out between now and the end of the 2 hours.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting race where fuel strategy is just, it's going to play such a big part with the fuel use ranging from somewhere between as low as 8.5 litres per lap, probably more likely around 9 litres for the people doing the most fuel saving, all the way up to about 11.5 litres for those who are not fuel saving. And there's a little bit of a worry that the ones that aren't fuel saving at all might actually have to 4-stop instead of 3-stop. They might need a final splash and dash. So that could be something to watch out for right at the end of the race.
I think with the rain potentially coming down, it might make the drivers' minds up as to whether they're going to do 3 or 4. I mean, in wet conditions, you aren't consuming as much fuel as you would be if you were racing in the dry. That would be my argument there. Just to clear up, Magnus Dahlgren got 2 penalties in the last race, one for avoidable contact and the other for FTLB, which Becky will remind me of what that actually is, considering there's a lot of acronyms involved, which not everyone can understand what they actually are. But Magnus Dahlgren got 40 seconds worth of time penalty. He doesn't need to serve anything in this one, but that was applied to his race time at the end of the Riverside race 7 days ago.
There are an awful lot of acronyms, aren't they? And people always forget just how difficult acronyms can be. But that one is failure to lock your brakes. So at CMS, it is expected that if you have an incident, you immediately lock your brakes and just stay as consistent as possible, stop in place and let everyone go. What Magnus did is he failed to lock his brakes and he went sliding across the track, getting in people's way. And I can't remember whether he collected someone or not. I think he didn't. But he definitely disrupted by doing that when he could have just stayed away from the track.
How easy is it then to lock the rears in these 1981 cars? Because these are very nimble machines, and if you apply too much brake pressure to the rear axle, that's what can cause the car to spin around on you. I think that might be what happened to Magnus Dahlgren in the race, where he applied so much brake pressure, but yet the rear just stepped out on him, and he just couldn't correct it.
So it can happen very easily, especially with these cars being old and they are a little bit looser. It happened to me at the last race. I was leading the under 2 litre throws, and just going into a left-hander, just going down in a dip, I just snatched the front brake just the tiniest little bit, a micro lock, and it just sent me straight into the barrier. We can see stuff like that happening in certain corners here, in the S's in particular. If someone brakes just a little bit too heavily, they could even just be half on brake, something that would never lock normally. Because of all the recesses, it could just snatch a brake and could throw them into these horrible tyres that are full of cement.
Yeah, and there's a lot of slow corners around this Sebring course, which they'll be going through, particularly the hairpin in the first part of the lap, which they'll be heading through, and of course at the end of what is known nowadays as the Ulman Straight, before that winding hairpin that leads onto the pit straight. Those are going to be two corners in particular, which the drivers will be wary about how they go about braking into there. We are in the middle of the warm-up session at the moment, so we're just waiting for the race to or the grid to be formed in due course. So we'll do our best to inform you. I think there were a few supporters to see you in the booth for once, Becky. Ben Porter has come in saying "Go Becky," and a few others as well. It's a different experience to what you see, what it is like to drive in one of these. How have you found the 1981 cars compared to the 1985s, which you raced in last year?
They are very, very different beasts. They're both lots of fuel saving. So in the 1985 last year, only some of the cars had to do a lot of fuel saving. So us of those in the March last year, we were used to doing absolutely tons. So this year, the fuel saving is nothing new to us. But for some others who didn't have to fuel save, that maybe in a car that could just go a bit like the what was it called? The Aston, I can't remember.
Is
It was
it
Aston
the Aston
powered.
Valkyrie or something?
No. It was Aston powered, but I can't remember what it's called in the 85s. And that never had to do any fuel saving. But these cars are also, they're a lot looser. They're not as tight, they're not as rigid. So in a way, they're a bit more chill. Their back end likes to slide out, and that's absolutely fine to slide the back end. The only problem with that is you're going to absolutely destroy your tires. The tires are very temperature sensitive, which isn't something that you really had to deal with last year. So last year you had to look after your tires, but it was in not overdriving. And this year it's very much don't overheat them.
Well, that is something for the drivers to be wary of going forward in these machines, because it is going to be wet conditions potentially and in darkness. So they are going to need to be wary as to how they handle the because I don't think we've had a wet race so far this season. So this is going to be a different challenge to what they've done in the first 4 rounds of this season. Last time out at Riverside, Nicholas Kirsten won out. He won out just over Eduardo Beninca before Beninca's time penalty arrived. Ross Smith won in the over 2 litre AM class, and JT Tammy won in the under 2 litre pro class, finishing 11th overall. And John Mayer won out. I think it was the only under 2 litre AM driver to finish that race. So a good haul of points for John Mayer to put him in the lead of the respective class there. And we're just waiting for the race to transition. Of course, drivers are being briefed as to how they go about racing around here, especially the first part of the lap, and just to be reminded of the more severe penalties potentially being dished out if any avoidable contact happens, or failure to lock brakes. I think that's what it is. Trying to come back to me with all these acronyms, and but of course we'll keep you up to date as to what is happening. But of course, we've got 28 drivers competing, or 29 perhaps. One driver, I think, maybe didn't take part in qualifying, but maybe doing so in the race. So we'll do what we can to inform you on everything throughout the season. Of course, this is not the only series within the VWSC that we have for you this year. Of course, there is the modern one, which they will compete in the 2026 cars. And they'll be racing again at some point soon. Just to confirm, the Qatar 100 minutes event that's meant to be held on April the 4th, that's been postponed, and the next round they'll be doing after that is the Imola 90 minutes, which will be on April the 25th. But of course, how have you found the 2026 cars, Becky? Have you been competing in those this
I'm
season?
afraid I haven't actually been able to drive any of them. I've I was a bit unwell towards the end of last year, and I've only managed to do a bit of the historics, but I have seen that the moderns are looking very nice, and they are out at Sebring, I believe, next weekend at the modern Sebring. So that will be a great race to catch as well.
I mean, I do like the look of those 2026 cars anyway, and a lot of them just look aesthetically wonderful to drive, as I imagine, and probably more or less of a handful to drive compared to maybe how the historics were. But that tells you about how advanced technology is with the cars these days. To confirm on who's competing this evening in the over 2 litres, you got the likes of Oliver Day, Magnus Dahlgren, Bradley Sellers, I should say, Dan Herlott, Eduardo Beninca, Wouter de Bruyne, Timon Suvic is around, Nicholas Kirsten, who's going for his 3rd win on the trot this evening, and you've got Gilles Lalonde, who's looking to get his points account opened for 2026 in the 1981 series. And we've got the likes of Johnny Gutierrez and Mike Bell also around tonight. In the over 2 litre AMS, you've got the likes of Jerry Chen here. We've got Ross Smith as well, Maximilian Petrovsky, Steve Carman, George Angelides, Vinicius Goncalves is here, along with John Uyan. In the under 2 litre pros, we've got the likes of Idko Basink, Ethan Funk, JT Tammy, Alan Smith is here as well, Alexander Schultz, Matt Wright, and Daniel Fowler. And in the finally, in the under 2 litre AMS, John Mayer is here again. He's hoping to repeat the feat of what he had at Riverside by winning out in the class. Matt Overton is around, as is Christian Dauder. Those are the only 3 drivers competing this evening. Who are you looking out for then, Becky, in this one in the classes? Because Oliver Day pulled out an absolute blinder of a lap right at the end of the qualifying session, but it's by no means a guarantee that he's going to come out on top here.
So I already know a little secret that Oliver Day is going to be fuel saving. So he's going to be doing his own thing, his own race, whereas some of the people in the Ferraris do like to just race and race fast, and they will be looking to get to the front as quickly as possible, lead from the front, get a big lead and burn the fuel off. Another interesting one to watch out for is going to be Johnny Gutierrez, who didn't actually set a lap in qualifying, but he's a very fast driver.
Well, we'll see soon enough who will be fuel saving in this one. I mean, it's a long encounter anyway. We've been 120 minutes long. I mean, this is the whole thing with fuel saving, is trying to save yourself from having to do a pit stop. I just wonder if it is going to be wet. Could it be a possibility that instead of doing a 3-stop, they're going to try and fuel save and make a 2-stop work? Because we've alluded to the fact earlier that the amount of time you lose in the pits is at least 2.5 minutes. Surely you want to try and save enough fuel to prevent yourself from doing a 3rd stop.
You absolutely do, but at the same time, we had some rain at Monza, and although a lot of people went to the wets, myself included, thinking I was doing a big brain move, it turned out to be a bit of a smooth brain move because the track stayed quite rubbered up. There stayed a line that was quite dry, and fuel use was a bit less, but it wasn't as little as you'd expect. So some people might be able to switch to a 2-stop, but I think it'd be quite a lot of hard work to do so.
It'll take something, but we'll see who will make it work. And I suppose if some drivers are going on a different strategy compared to others, that's going to make the climax to the races in all classes, has to be said. I suppose if you're further down in the championship and you feel a little bit ambitious in trying to recover points lost, then it's perhaps maybe worth taking a gamble. And of course, this is the 5th round. So after this one, we'll be a third of the way through the season before we take that 5-week break before we resume action in the series at Watkins Glen. So, I mean, with this particular layout, this particular layout of the course, you know, with the hairpins, the slower corners around here, I think there is actually the right-hander, which leads on to the what is known nowadays as the Almond Straight. I believe we may have just transitioned into the race session. If so, we can run down the grid for today's race. The 120 minutes of Sebring in the VWSC of 1981. So we're just waiting for the grid graphics to appear, and but of course the drivers will be escorted by the pace car for one lap round, which will give us more than enough time to run through the grid for today's event. I am seeing we've got 29 drivers, as I alluded to earlier. But here is the grid. Oliver Day on pole position with Magnus Dahlgren alongside Bradley Sellers and Dan Herlock on the second row. We've got Eduardo Beninca and Wouter de Bruyne in 5th and 6th places, respectively. Then it's Jerry Chen, the highest of the over 2 litre AMs, in 7th place. Then it's Iko Basink, who leads the way in the under 2 litre pros, ahead of Ethan Funk and JT Tammy. Ross Smith in 11th place, followed by Maximilian Petrovsky, who make up row 6. And it's on to Timon Suvic, who has got Steve Carman for company on the 7th row. George Angelidis and Vinicius Goncalves are on row number 8, both of which competing in the over 2 litre AMs. Then it's Nicholas Kirsten down in 17th position. Don't be at all surprised to see him come through the field from there, ahead of Gilles Lalonde. John Mayer, the highest of the under 2 litre AMs, in 19th position, ahead of Matt Overton, who will have him for company. It does say Jerry Smith on there, but it is Matt Overton in 21st place. Alan Smith is in 22nd. Christian Dauger in 23rd spot, ahead of Alexander Schultz. And then we go on to row number 13 with Matt Wright and Johnny Gutierrez in 25th and 26th places. Mike Bell and Daniel Fowler are in 27th and 28th places. And then at the back on his own is John Uyan. 29 drivers, Becky. A good turnout for today, as the drivers are being escorted by the pace car. Well, I say by pace car, they're just going via their own pace at the moment before we get underway.
There will be a pace car there. I don't know why we can't see it, but there should be a pace car there that they're following. Yeah, it's a fantastic turnout, considering there's quite a few people not racing who really like to race. There's myself, my teammate Ben Borman. We've seen Tony McCoffin from the BMW 320, and Cole Strobel also drives a BMW 320. All of them in YouTube chat, so we'd normally be up at least 4 or 5 on that 28 as well. We are down to 28. We have lost Joey Smith, who it was his debut, so that's a shame for him to have missed out at the start of his debut, but that's often the ways it was back in the 80s. When you go for your debut, your car wouldn't always make the start.
Yeah, it is a terrible shame for Joey Smith, who won't take part in this one. He is shown as DNF on our timing pages. But the show must go on, as Oliver Day and Magnus Dahlgren and co all know too well, as they make their way round this course that, of course, last used in 1982 before the configuration had changed around. And they'll do their utmost to put on the show for the fans. Of course, everyone that's tuning in the live chat, do get involved if you ever so wish to have a question for us to answer, and we'll do our utmost to answer in due course. But there is the field. Oliver Day in the yellow car in the Ford Mustang to the far side, and then in the red and silver Ferrari, the non-turbo, that is Magnus Dahlgren with Bradley Sellers and Dan Herlock on the second row of the grid. They'll be doing their best to try to get to the front as soon as they can, but it is 120 minutes long and a lot can change between now and the end. They are starting in the day and it'll get to darkness very, very soon. So you can just...
The track has not been configured for a pace car, so unlike the rest of the season where a pace car is going to lead them round, today Oliver Day will be setting the pace. He'll probably be setting it at about 100 kilometers an hour. But when the race starts, you can see the time already counting down to 2 hours. When the race starts, I think will be news to us, because with the pace car in the game, it starts at green light. When we had no pace car, it started when each individual car reached the start-finish line. So that created bigger gaps. There's been a lot of chaos at the start of each race, and a lot of people gaining a lot of positions, which might not be possible now. It depends how they've arranged to do it.
Well, they are coming round towards the back of the circuit. This is the back stretch before the U-turn, otherwise known as Sunset Bend nowadays here in Sebring. But Oliver Day has gathered the field round, and just as Becky said, if it is from when the moment each car goes over the line, it could create bigger gaps. So I just hope the drivers are aware of that particular scenario, because some may assume that just because they go, or the cars ahead of them go, it's that point where they do go themselves. But let's hope they can get through the first lap rather safely. Remember, up to turn 3 on the opening lap is where the more severe penalties will be dished out for any avoidable contact. So they need to be on their best behaviour for that particular part, as Oliver Day has got the 28 cars or 27 cars behind him, hoping to be ready for the start of this as they come around the U-turn. And there you can see the green flag from the marshal in the foreground as Oliver Day has slowed the field up, and when he crosses over the line, that's when the racing can commence in the 120 minutes of Sebring in the VWSC of 1981. And it is Oliver Day who leads the field towards turn 1 now, and we are good to go here in Sebring. Day gets off to a super start, but it's Dahlgren who looks to the outside, making a move around the outside. That's a great move from Magnus Dahlgren, straight into the lead at turn number 1. And now they're coming towards turns 2 and 3. Now they need to remember that if they can get through here safely, then that's when the less severe penalties will be dished out after that on lap number 1. But it seems there that Dahlgren has pulled out a gap already on Herlock and Sellers. Day down to 4th position, and he's got Eduardo Beninca to his left-hand side. And I wonder if Day is definitely fuel saving, as you mentioned earlier, Becky.
Day is definitely just playing by his own course today, letting everyone else get on with it, letting people go flying through. It's a fantastic start from Dahlgren and Herlock, though, who are going to be racing their bums off at the moment to try and do well. And we've got Beninca coming down the inside of Sellers, coming into the chicane, into the hairpin. I cannot see it going round. We've had Schultz off as well.
Which will get some... Yeah, we'll find out exactly what happened to Schultz, who brought out the yellow flag. I don't think anyone else was involved in that, but here they come towards the chicane, and further up front, that was Magnus Dahlgren. Continues on his way. That was quite a rotation of camera there, as what our producer has alluded to in our ears. But there is Dahlgren, continuing to pull away. He's got over 1.6 seconds in hand over Dan Herlock, with Bradley Sellers and Eduardo Beninca in 3rd and 4th places. But as we see, the time lapse will, I think it's 10 times what it is in real life, where the light will fade into darkness. And I think it may well come back towards sunrise as well, but we'll see soon enough. JT Tammy has Ilko Besink on his tail. That's the battle for the lead in the under 2 litre pros. So they come towards the back stretch, and we see a move further up ahead. The red car that is running in 5th position, I believe, has made a move.
It's Kirsten.
It's Kirsten, isn't it, on Day? Yeah, so it's Kirsten through on Day into 5th place.
We've got Elko Bussing making a move back on JT. We got him earlier in the lap down the straight, so that's probably using up a bit of fuel to do that. And that's the other option that the turbo cars have. The turbo cars would say, well, I want to make this overtake, I'm going to use fuel and extend my acceleration down the straight to do that. The NA cars don't have that option, although JT is also in a turbo car. He probably just opted to sit in behind and fuel save.
There are difference in strategies going around already, drivers considering what they're going to be doing at this early stage in the first stint. I suppose if you're one of those who's looking to stretch out the first stint, you could do the same for the subsequent stint, which could save you a pit stop later on. This is Alexander Schultz, who has happened to be hit from behind in the early part. That's after turn 3, so if any punishment is to come in the way of whoever ran into Schultz, it won't be as severe.
Into braking there, so I believe Matt Overton in the Red Lotus.
So we see from a better angle. Oh, that's Schultz who got tipped into the barrier. We understand it was Matt Overton, so that is a rather unfortunate one for Alexander Schultz. But he's carrying on his way, but he's probably going to need to make a pit stop at some point, because I'd imagine he'll take quite a hit as we see another yellow flag in sector 1. I think Matt Wright is the latest to have had a moment.
It did look like Alexander Schultz lost his front splitter, so I imagine he will have to stop, as we are watching Ross Smith and Jerry Chen go at it for 2nd place in over 2 litres AMS. And out of nowhere, here comes George Angelidis as well, with Timon Suvik, the pro up behind. So there's a big queue here, starting from time Maximilian Petrasky, the leader of the over 2 litre AMS.
There's a spin over at the hairpin. and there's quite a gridlock behind over at the hairpin. And Ethan Funk is the one who has gone round, unfortunately. So he's going to fall to the back of the field. We'll get a replay as to what kick-started that. But there we see Ross Smith and Jerry Chen absolutely tussling over second place in class. But here's a replay of Daniel Fowler, who has, I think, has gone for a spin. That looks like over at turn 3, Becky.
Yeah, exit of turn 3. It's quite easy to. What you can't see so well, there's a big bump as the material changes, and that could easily catch people out.
And we go back to the battle between Jerry Chen and Ross Smith, who are running at the moment 2nd and 3rd in class, 9th and 10th overall in this race. Got a brief yellow flag in sector 3, but that's gone away very, very quickly as the drivers continue to filter their way through around this course. Considering it's essentially a runway, which I don't think is used as a runway. I can't remember if it was used by the army or something over in the US, but it feels that way from decades back or something. I mean, my history when it comes to America is not particularly the best. But here is a moment for Ethan Funk, and this is Mike Bell. Sorry, this is Mike Bell going for a spin, and it's actually all via his own accord. No one else ran into him, and that was Ethan Funk who just couldn't avoid him.
And then Matt Overton giving Mike a nice little friendly tap hello, just to add insult to injury there. But poor Ethan missing out there. He was running 3rd, running nicely in class. Nothing he could do was there.
It underlines how easy it is to lose the rear axle when you apply that much brake pressure for a slow speed corner like the hairpin there, and that was exemplified by Mike Bell, who's gone round. I don't think any damage has been made, but they have lost time and places as a consequence. But now, as we are on lap number 4 of the race, I think it's lap 3, because the commentator has considered the pace lap as lap 1. But it is what it is. As we see, Jerry Chen has got George Angelinas on his tail now, who's got by Ross Smith, who's down to 5th position in the over 2 litres AM class.
Yeah, Ross has just lost out from George, Timon, John and Johnny. So something must have happened there as Timon's making a move on Jerry Chen down into what looks like the hairpin.
That's a change for overall position, not necessarily in class. So Suvic going through on Jerry Chen at the hairpin. Maximilian Petraffi is the next driver ahead in the red car in the background. They just go through turns 8 and 9. It is a chicane, but it's like one of the longest chicanes I've ever seen. It feels...
It is.
Yeah, go on.
There's a lot of undulation in the chicane as well. You can't really see off track, so you can take a big cut, but it's quite terrifying, that chicane. We've also got in this group, we have Johnny Gutierrez and John Chia, who started at the back and both trying to make their way through the field. And it looks like Johnny's going for a move on John right now, but doesn't quite pull it off. That's going to cost him get all the way down the straight.
So here we see the cars coming through. There is a 90-degree bend which they'll be heading towards. And then we look at Eduardo Beninca and Dan Herlock in 2nd and 3rd places. Further back, I think that's Massimilian Ciccacchi leading that queue with Timon Suvic right behind. And it's Jerry Chen and George Angelides who are tussling for position in class now as well. And Angelides looking to the inside, although actually Angelides is now ahead of Jerry Chen, for your information. So Angelides through into 2nd position in the over 2 litre AM class. Jerry Chen down to 3rd.
Yeah, great move there by George. He seems to always be around Jerry on track. And next up for George is Maximilian Petrasky. He has been ahead of his little queue, so we'll see if George can get the way to the front.
And Magnus Dahlgren is continuing to lead. His net lead is only 0.8 of a second on Eduardo Beninca, who has the fastest up of the race. That was posted on the last tour, 2 minute 33.6, over 1.5 seconds quicker than what Magnus Dahlgren has been able to post with Dan Herlock, who only produced a 2 minute 35.2. So it feels to me like Eduardo Beninca is a man on the move. He's prepared to consume more fuel than presumably what Dahlgren and Herlock are doing, as well as Bradley Sellers, who's doing his utmost to stay in touch with these, although he's now 4 seconds off the lead. And he has Nicholas Kirsten, who is gunning for a hat-trick of wins here in Sebring.
Eduardo is always a man with a mission. He is fantastic to watch because he only has one mode, and that is full beans. Whereas Dan Herlock in behind is probably fuel saving. He has an internal debate with himself whether to fuel save or not this race, because he has quite good pace in the M1 whether he does or not. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's going to sit in and save fuel, or whether he's going to think, actually I'm just going to stay with these front two.
There we look at Herlock, who's got Magnus Dahlgren in his sights, as well as Eduardo Beninka, so we've got a three-way fight for the lead. Herlock not willing to let these two pull away. I suppose if he stays in the draft at this stage, then that will help him save fuel, won't it? And this is the point in the race where the game of chess comes into play.
It absolutely will help him save fuel, but the thing that you've also got to remember with that BMW is it hasn't got the power of the rest of the cars, not quite. Even the other NA car, the Ferrari, it hasn't got the same power, so even in the slipstream, sometimes the other cars can pull a bit.
We can see on the bottom end of the screen, I wonder if that's just trying to see who that is.
That is George and John Uyan, a teammate battle. So John, who started from the back, has all the way up to George in 12th place. So an amazing start from John Uyan. Made up about at least 10 positions so far this race.
Yeah, he started at the back, didn't he, John Uyan? He was at the back in 28th or 29th position, as he was provisionally before we lost Jerry Smith before this race had begun. He's the only retirement of the event so far. I was just going to say, Jerry Chen got back ahead of George Angelidis since we last spoke about Jerry Chen. I don't know where he did it, but he's got back through ahead of Angelidis now. Ross Smith, who we usually hear in the commentary position at times, he's running in 5th position in the over 2 litre AM class. He's just ahead of Steve Carman. The next driver who'll be going after is Jules Lalonde, who is down the order compared to most of his counterparts in the over 2 litre pros.
So with Jerry and George, I'm actually doing something very sneaky right now. Magnus Dahlgren is off, and Dan Herlock makes his way up into 2nd place. Is he going to follow Eduardo? So Eduardo made it past as well, as Magnus is off 3rd place, 1st to 3rd.
Yeah, he's lost 2 positions in a blink of an eye, has Magnus Dahlgren. That has opened the door for both Eduardo Beninka and Dan Herlock to accept the invitation and go on through. So we've got a new race leader in Eduardo Beninka, who I'm convinced has used up a considerable amount of fuel. You just see Dan Herlock using all the curbs and then some through that section of the course.
Yeah, that's exactly why I think that the chicane is scary. So
look, that's Jerry Chen, isn't it?
Will be now wanting to make a gap to Dan Herlock. He wants to drop him.
Well, Chen has lost some time somewhere, and Johnny Gutierrez has moved in front of him. But Maximilian Petrefi is still in the lead in the over 2 litres, and we see a brilliant battle between George Angelidis and John Uyan. Yeah, teammates who are fighting over 3rd position in class, and Uyan moves in front of Angelidis, who is beginning to drop back after the tussle he had with Jerry Chen a couple of laps ago. So I wonder if Angelidis may be in the phase in this race where he needs to fuel save.
I think it makes sense for Angelidis to follow Uyan. Uyan has worked his way up from the back. He does seem to be the quicker driver. They are teammates. If he can just sit in behind John, save some fuel, and get himself dragged back up to the Porsches in front, I think that would be a great tactic for him to implement right now.
He got that corner all wrong, actually. He missed the apex before they got towards turn 14. That was turn 13 they went through. This is one of the back straights that they had in this runway part of the course. It is an old layout of Sebring, just so that you know, 1967 to 1962 configuration before the configuration had changed. But Ross Smith is now on the tail of George Angelidis. We've been told that John Mayer has been off the circuit. We'll get more on that in a moment. But through turn 14, Ross Smith is gunning to get through both on Jules Lalonde and George Angelidis. Lalonde is way down the order compared to his rivals in his respective class, and this is a point in the race where he needs to start trying to make up positions, otherwise it's just going to fall too far behind.
So very interestingly, we saw the difference in acceleration and top speed of that BMW. Where George didn't get the best exit out of turn 13 down the straight, that also held up with Lalonde, and you could see Ross darting out to going, I made a better exit, I'm faster than these people, and he'd dart out and then go again, dart out, go again. Could not slipstream past the other cars.
Yeah, and Angelidis has got Ross Smith on his tail now, so this is a genuine fight for class position at the moment at this stage of the race. If the rumours are to be true with the 3-stop strategy expected around this Sebring course, we're probably looking around about 40 minutes into the race to see the pit stops happening involving the whole field. Because we're only about 15 minutes into this one, so still a long way to go yet before we get into that particular discussion. Further up ahead, we look at Jerry Chen, who's now got John Uyan on his tail for the fight. For fight in the second place in the class. As we see John Uyan tuck into the slipstream, this could be a moment where Uyan is going to send one up the inside, and Jerry Chen doesn't even fight that one, Becky.
That was extremely easy. I was expecting that to be a hard move. But
Oh,
John
no.
spun!
Yeah, John
Jerry
Uyan locks
handed
the
it to
rear.
him on the plate, but John Uyan has locked up and chaos behind. No one's slowing down.
And that was John Uyan who lost the rear brakes. He didn't get run into by Jerry Chen, but that was a bad error from John Uyan, whose hard work has come undone. And he's dropped down to 6th position now. He's just ahead of, just look and see, that's Alan Smith right behind us in a different class to where he is. And this is John Mayer's moment, where we're going to see, where has he done it here? Is this turn 13 where he's just gone round here? It looks like it is.
Yes, that's right. Turn ready, doesn't it? Just went around. He's doing well, following Matt Wright, so that's a very good position. And he's still actually top of under 2 litre amps, even with that spin, so it hasn't affected his race.
Yeah, it hasn't affected his race too much though. He was able to get going using all the runoff area. There's that much runoff area. It's almost like the drivers are almost wanting to design their own racetracks, but it is what it is with the layout of this course, considering it is a runway. Matt Overton is down a lap now in 28th position. He's just come into the pit lane. This is a replay of John Uyan's moment as he got by Jerry Chen. He just applied too much brake pressure. And there's that bump actually on the inside, Becky, that caught John Uyan out.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what happened to me last week actually, with the little indent there, and as he went over it, the rear end just stepped out, and he was a passenger at that point, whilst everyone else bombed it through rather than slowing down. Jerry Chen was the only one who showed the sort of the proper racing procedure, I'd say there, where he stopped, waited for it to be safe, and then went.
See John Uyan, who's now back ahead of Vinicius Goncalves for 5th place in class. The lead that Eduardo Beninca now has over Dan Hillock is 1.1 seconds, so it's been more of a commanding gap, which this is Steve Carman, who is having to take evasive action off the circuit in that John Uyan is, and it looks like he's ended up beached on the sand, which is rather ironic. Hopefully he's managed to get out of there as Carman. I think he has done, but he has lost a lot of
you can see his wheels spinning and spinning. He is going to be destroying that left rear whilst he tries to get off. So he might need a tyre change later this race because of that.
Yeah,
and that's about 40 seconds.
He will lose a lot of time, won't he? Which will hurt his race. Through no fault of his own, actually, because all he was doing was getting out of the way of the spinning Uyan, who caused that gridlock. And Smith, meanwhile, is on the tail of Jerry Chen for the fight in the over 2 litre AMS for 3rd place, that is, with Ilko Singh, who is doing his utmost to get back in touch. Well, he is leading actually in the under 2 litre pros, is Ilko Singh. Around about 4.
Second lead over JT Cammy, and his current pace is a few seconds faster than JT, so I think JT must have had an issue last lap.
Well, they are those who are in a league of their own, actually, compared to where the likes of Matt Wright, Alan Smith and all that are. But this is a replay of George Angelidis having a moment. Where has he done this? This is over... It's turn 3, isn't it? Tower Bend.
Yeah, turn 3, over the hump as the material changes, just ran it wide. That's the safest thing to do if things go wrong there, otherwise he would have just rotated the car and had a spin.
There we see the battle for 3rd place in the over 2 litre rounds. Jerry Chen and Ross Smith coming down the back stretch. There will be a 90-degree bend, or I think on the back stretch actually towards the final hairpin of the circuit. It's difficult to tell with the camera angles that we've got for you. It almost looks like it's the one before turn 14, or it's the one towards where Sunset Bend is at. That's how tricky it is to tell. But it is the last hairpin of the lap. You can just tell because the corner before is a 90-degree bend. This is a 180-degree bend. Here's a replay of Matt Overton, who is probably gone off the circuit. And we're going to see... Oh, he caught the barrier. So that's why he had to come into the pits, Becky, for repairs.
We are going to see a few people doing that. We saw Christian Dalga having to avoiding action as well. So he's gotten away with his own teammate there, unfortunately. But those tyres are going to cause issues, especially once we hit night time and they become harder to see.
There's the 61 going back onto the circuit. And we're probably going to see more of it, as what Becky has just mentioned there. And I think if it does get to darkness, then it's going to be more tricky to nail the apexes and avoid touching those barriers, because they ain't going to move those barriers as far as R Factor 2 is concerned. But there we see Eduardo Beninca having a 3.5 second lead now over Dan Herlock, with Magnus Dahlgren, who was in the lead at the beginning of this. He looks content to be where he is in 3rd position. And John Unia set the fast lap of the race in his own respective class, so he is making up for lost time, but he is probably consuming fuel on his way to making that recovery. So there may be...
But he's on the back of Ross Smith, who is sitting in 4th class, and he is actually 3 seconds a lap faster than Max Petrasky, who is leading the car. So John is absolutely flying, and we're going to see him work his way back through the field again.
It looks like...
Meanwhile, Elko Bussing is stuck in an over 2 litre amp sandwich, so that's got to be difficult for everyone involved, because the speed difference between the over 2 litre and the under 2 litres on the straight is quite big, with Elko much faster.
Yeah, because he's got the turbo fitted to his BMW, hasn't he? So I would have thought he would have got better acceleration coming out of there. I suppose that's the thing with these cars sometimes. Some may have better cornering speed compared to how the turbos fare through the course, but on the straights, when they apply the power, that's pretty much the leverage of what's keeping Bussing ahead of the over 2 litres.
Well, we just saw both Uyon and Ross Smith flying past Bussing, and Uyon got Ross Smith at the same time. He used the opportunity to get in front, and Ross wasn't too happy with that. I'm actually being and this was a bit of the radio. Jerry is making a move on George Angelides, going down the inside into the U-turn, or Sunset as we know. He hasn't quite made it though. George cut his nose off, but he's still going.
Yeah, well, George Angelides holding on to 2nd place in the over 2 litres AM class, although Jerry Chen may have other ideas. He got a better exit coming out of the final bend, and that is all what he needs to head on through. Although George Angelides is still in front of him actually, so I don't know what happened to Jerry Chen there, whether he just maybe got a little bit too exuberant. Oh, that's George off at top 1, and that's enough for Jerry Chen to go on through, and maybe John Uyan as well.
John Uyan sniffed an opportunity, and he wants to get both of them in one. And there's Ross Smith also smelling the opportunity as well. There goes George and John side by side over the bump. Ross thinks they're going to kill each other.
Yeah, well, they're absolutely dicing it out, and all of this is helping Max Petroffi, who's now got a 12-second lead over this bunch. He can breathe a little bit easier and think about conserving some fuel between now and when he comes in for his first stop. Ross Smith is still in 5th position behind George Angelides. He's now lost 2 positions in the space of around about 5 or 6 corners, and now he's having to switch his attention to make sure that Ross Smith doesn't get on by. Don't rule out Vinicius Goncalves, who's a little bit further back, actually, he's around about 9 seconds off, but if they keep dicing, Goncalves will be getting involved in this. But there we look at Ilko Pasink, who's...
You're annoyed at this price because JT Tammy is right on him. He is right up his bum, and Elko believes that JT is saving him.
Pasink has got JT Tammy, so we've got a fight for 2nd place, a 4-way scrap for 2nd place in the over 2 litre AMS, and a 2-way fight for the lead in the under 2 litre pros as well between Pasink and Tammy. They're quite a distance ahead of Matt Wright, who is determined to make up for lost time. And that is, well, we've just seen Ross make a move on Angelides, actually, as they go through turn number 12, or 13 rather. And Ross Smith is still behind Angelides. The camera angles aren't particularly the best, but we do what we can.
At the same time, Tammy and Bussing are side by side going down the straight. They are swapping positions every second right now.
Yeah, you could just see in your picture.
Side.
Basink in the green car. JT Tammy.
Attempts in front of JT Tammy. We still have Jerry Chen, John Uyan, George Angelides, and Ross Smith within 2 seconds of each other. But Busink and Tammy's little squabble has put them a second and a half behind that group.
Yeah, we've just apologised for the technical difficulties, but we do have the timing page that he's still active, so we'll inform you via that until we get.
At the same time, Eduardo Beninca is absolutely flying, and I'm sorry that you can't see this right now, but Eduardo Beninca just gained 2.4 seconds on Dan Herlock to bring the gap up to 6 seconds at the front. So he is absolutely burning the fuel like crazy. Dan Herlock has probably gone into fuel saving mode to try and get him in the pit stops.
And we've still got Maximilian Petrucci still in the lead in the over 2 litres M's, and it appears that we've got our pictures back. So, Eduardo Beninca, you can just see in your picture, 6 seconds out in front over Dan Herlock. Dahlgren is run about 1.5 seconds off Herlock in the fight for second place. But Bradley Sellers is on the tail of Dahlgren now, so this is the closest that Sellers has been to the top 3 since the start. Kirsten is, well, he's been in fuel saving mode, in all honesty, in the early stages. I think that will help him in the long run. Petrucci's now 10 seconds clear over Uyan in the over 2 litre AMs.
But that means that John is starting to pull everyone along rather than the squabbling, because that gap was 12 seconds not long ago. Although last lap they did very similar lap times, so perhaps it's going to settle down. I would expect that pit stops will be about to be starting because we are on lap 11. So pit stops could start now. Between now and 13, I would have thought would be it.
We're around about 25 minutes into this one. If we were mentioning about 3 pit stops in this race, that is probably the point where we are going to be seeing pit stops, and we have got pit stop over for Bradley Sellers, who was running in 4th position before he entered the pit lane, but now he has taken the opportunity to make a pit stop. We expect him to be in the pits for around about 2.5 minutes, so he's going to be down a lap by the time the likes of Beninca, Herlock and Dahlgren get round, but it's crucial for Sellers that he gets out in some clear air to try and perform an undercut.
So the likelihood is we'll see Eduardo hit this lap, because with him flying along as he is, he's probably not saving very much. So Eduardo will be in. Brad is in early because the turbo cars do use a bit more fuel, so unless they fuel save, they will be the first cars in.
And this is a concertina. I think that's Mike Bell, who has found himself in a little bit of bother there. It's gone off the track as well.
Was with Alexander Schultz and Daniel Fugler with them there as well.
He's carried on his way there. It looked like as he came back onto the circuit, the rear just stepped out and he ended up having to go over the grass as a consequence. But there we see Ross Smith, who is with Angelides. Angelides' exit wasn't particularly the best, but is Smith going to go through on the inside? He thought about it through there at turn 2. But this is Tower Bend that they're going through now. And it looks like Angelides is holding on again, but Ross Smith is looking rather feisty here, Becky.
Ross is playing the smart game. Ross knows he's playing the long game. Last time out he won by fuel saving like a boss. And I imagine whilst he's getting quite frustrated at being held up behind Angelides for so long, but he's probably also thinking, okay, I'll get him in the pits, I'll save way more fuel, I'll jump him, I'll jump Jerry Chen, I'll be back in this.
There's a lot of fuel saving over the course of one lap which you can have, because it is 2.5 minutes long. What benefit do you think you can have in staying out for an extra lap then, Becky?
So an extra lap is worth about 8-9 seconds in fuel. So if you think about that over the whole race, if they're making 3 stops and you save a lap each stop, you're saving a good 30 seconds on someone who's not saving at all.
Petrucci is continuing to scamper off into the distance, and this is a replay now of, well, this is Petrucci actually, by the looks of it, who's been off the circuit. He won't want to be doing that too many times. Penalties are self-policed in this. It's not necessarily R Factor 2 that apply it. We do have stewards that can enforce penalties should they need to, but hopefully Petrucci won't do that too many times.
So Max would have lost time doing that, but Max does do Max things. He often is, as the pit stops are going full flow now. We have Magnus Dahlgren, Oliver Day, Eduardo Beninca, Timon Suvic, Woody Brun, Johnny Gutierrez, all in the pits together. So that, hopefully they won't get caught up with each other. Steve Harmon in as well, down towards the back of the under 2 litre amps. So last time out, we actually had a big problem in the pits where Dan Hurlock was blocked and couldn't get into his pit stop and had to wait the whole 2 minutes. Hopefully we won't have another issue like that today. It looks good right now.
Yeah, I think it looks like the garage spaces are a lot longer as well between each car, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue for these. Dan Hurlock has taken over leadership in this one now, with Nicholas Kirsten has also decided to stay out another lap, which could pay dividends for when they next come in. I just hope when they do come in that they're not get held up by cars of which they're coming out of the box, because of the duration which you need to complete or get a whole tank of fuel put in. 120 litres they'll be put into these machines before they leave their boxes.
So we've got there Wouter de Bruyne, who was in front of Johnny Gutierrez. It looks like he might have to reverse out, so that's not going to help him, going to cost him a bit of time. Also on the fuel, people who are stopping now, stopping a bit later, likely either won't be putting in 120 litres or they'll be doing a splash and dash for the final stop. I think a few people stopping around now will be putting in about 105 litres, so they will gain a good 10 seconds or more.
And there we can see Johnny Gutierrez, who's parked in front of Valtteri de Bruyne. I just wonder if Valtteri de Bruyne, as what Becky's mentioned there, may have to reverse a little bit, which is not ideal, because if there's another car behind Valtteri de Bruyne that's pitting in his or her box, then they could come out, well, they're going to have trouble actually getting out. And Dan Hurlock has made his way into the pit lane, and I would assume that Nicholas Kirsten is going to do the same, because it's getting to the point where...
Kirsten is in the pits as well.
Oh, has someone spun around in the pit lane there? It looks like someone has gone a little bit on it. It's okay. I thought a car had just gone sideways in the pit lane though, judging by that angle, but it looks like
Dan Hurlock has angled his car for the exit, to me.
There is Kirsten, who's at the far end of the pit lane, which I suppose can be a benefit in a way, because you've got no one in front of you to have to worry about. It looks like Dan Hurlock, oh dear, this is not ideal, is it? Is that Mike Bell in front of him as well?
That is Mike Bell, and I'm being very sneaky and listening to their team radio, and Mike Bell might have had an RFAX doing RFAX 2 things and changing his tyres, which is going to put him in for a long time.
All of this is going to play into the hands of Kirsten, who could potentially leapfrog Hurlock here at this rate. But we've got Maximilian Petrovsky, who's going to be coming round to come into the pit lane, I would think, unless he is feeling more ambitious and staying out for another lap as well. George Angelidis is in the pits, as is Ethan Funk, Matt Wright, Alan Smith, Shullalon, Mike Bell, Alexander Schultz and Jerry Chen are all in pit road. The driver of the fast stop of the race is Eduardo Beninca with a 2:33.6. He set that lap time quite some time ago though. But there we see Petrovsky in, and the same with Uyan.
And in the background there is John Uyan. That gap was a 12-second gap not long ago. So Max Petrovsky's excursions has cost him a lot. Ross is still going. Ross is leading the race overall. As I said, he's going to be frustrated being held up behind those Ferraris, but he's also, I think he's going to be laughing because of the fuel that he saved because of it.
Yeah, Ross Smith in the lead now on lap 14. Vinicius Goncalves has also stayed out as well in the BMW M1. And what about John Mayer, who's leading the way in the under 2 litre AMS?
John Mayer is still going at the moment.
Well, he hasn't got round.
Interestingly, Elko Busick and JT Tammy for the fight in the under 2 litre pros look like they've stopped at the same lap.
John Mayer pitted. John Mayer hasn't pitted yet in this one, so he'll be coming round too. And I say that, he has made his way into the pit lane. He was running at 9th position, but now you can see Eduardo Beninca, who has already pitted in this race. He'll go back up into 3rd place on the road. I would think that Smith and Goncalves will be in the pit lane at the end of this lap. It'll be interesting to see how far they go on the second stint, actually, before...
Brad Sellers has jumped Dan Hurlock and has tucked Beninca a bit with that pit stop. So I'm guessing that Bradley Sellers has taken a shorter stint here, and Dan Hurlock might be just taking full fuel and then whatever he needs for the final stop.
There is the possibility of engine blowouts as well in this one, considering how brittle these cars are. So Bradley Sellers' time in the pits was 153 seconds, so it's round about as we had predicted that these drivers are. And Herlock as well did 162. Sorry, the other drivers just mentioned that did 153, not 253. But Herlock did a stop which was run about 9 seconds slower.
But that is an extra lap of fuel that Dan Herlock has put in compared to Brad Sellers for this stint.
But we've got a yellow flag in sector 3, which has been out for a little bit of time. So I wonder if there's been a driver, and Daniel Fowler, who's been at the back of the field for the vast majority of this race. He's already down a lap on the field. There are drivers still yet to pit in.
Here comes Ross Smith into the pits. I imagine the Siscon Galvis will be following. And I believe that's it for the pit stops.
I can't recall anyone else who hasn't pitted in yet, although I can see that John Mayer and Christian Delga are both in the pit lane at the moment. So everyone has more or less done a stop already. We're around about the 35-minute mark in this one. Now Mike Bell is the latest to have caused the yellow flag, not for the first time in this race. He is down in 25th position. He's competing in the over 2 litre Pro class as well, so he's got quite a lot of work to do from where he is at. Smith and Conchalves are both in the pit lane now, so that will hand the lead back to Eduardo Beninca, who's got Bradley Sellers in second place now, who's been able to leapfrog Herlock and Dalgrim in the stops. This is a replay of Mike Bell going round at turn 13. Nothing too major that time, but
M1 is quite easy to lose the rear, as that looked like either Route de Bourne or more likely that was Bradley Sellers going through. Interestingly, in the under 2 litre Pro class, Elko Bussing and JT Tammy look like they have gone for a different strategy on the fuel, as there's now a 12-second gap between them. So JT has gone for a full fuel stint, and Elko Bussing has gone for just what he needed this stint. So we'll have 3 equal stints, pit stops, whereas JT will probably have 2 longer and 1 shorter. So we'll see them come back together at the end of the race potentially.
We'll see soon enough further down the line. That was Mike Bell, who had another moment over at turn 14 this time. He's had a really tough second stint already. But back to the leaders. That's
Max Petrasky has dropped all the way down in the over 2 litre AMS. Jerry Chen has jumped John Uyan and Max Petrasky.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened there, whether that was in the pits or not. It could be a lot of different strategies playing out.
Well, I would have thought it would be in the pit stops, because I'd imagine that he'd stopped in the box, having to wait for the traffic to go on through. But all of this has helped Jerry Chen.
So it was a mistake by Petrasky, as we're hearing that John Uyan's pit stop was actually longer than Petrasky. So Max has had an off somewhere, and he's lost more than 8 seconds on John Uyan, as well as having a shorter stop.
See Eduardo Beninca in the lead, and Bradley Sellers just closing in. But all of this is changing hands in the over 2 litre AM class.
Mistake for Beninca.
Yeah, he just overcooked it, didn't he? And that has allowed Sellers to close in. He's lost 2 seconds in that corner there, did Eduardo Beninca. And I wonder if the pressure is beginning to get to him at the moment. He's trying to push, or I don't know whether he's trying to push or whether he's trying to fuel save. But either way, he's made a mistake at that particular bend. And that's given all the encouragement that Sellers needs at this stage.
Yep, Bradley Sellers is on him now. He can sniff that bacon just in front of him. He is very happy with the balance of his car. As I think I said, I'm actually listening in on some of the drivers at the moment. And Brad Sellers is happy, and he sniffs some Eduardo. So he is really up for this one.
Valtteri De Bruyne has moved in front of Magnus Dahlgren whilst you've been saying that, Becky. He's now ahead of the man who was leading the race at the beginning. I wonder if Dahlgren's fuel saving again, or whether it was an unforced error that he had made. Oliver Day, who was running towards the front as well, he was on pole earlier. He's now 33 seconds off the lead, presumably continuing to fuel save.
Yes, I assume so. Oliver Day, I assume as well, because of that big drop, that he has just filled his tank to the absolute max. As we have JT Tammy and Ethan Funk following each other, teammates, with JT leading the way. Hopefully for Ethan that will help him do a bit more fuel saving, as normally JT's a bit better, so he'll learn some spaces. Ross Smith challenging Jerry Chen for the lead of the over 2 litre AMS.
The pit cycle has played into Ross Smith's hands by staying out there longer than most of his counterparts. He's now on the tail of Jerry Chen for the lead in class. And you can just see Basink and Tammy in the foreground ahead of him. Oh, that's Basink actually, and Jerry Chen is the next driver in full position. I think that might be a lapped car in between them, but Jerry Chen has got Ross Smith on his tail, and Gilles Lalonde is, Gilles Lalonde is in that sandwich actually between Smith and Nguyen.
So Ross Smith, as I said, he would be laughing from his fuel saving. If you remember, he was stuck up behind George Angelidis for the majority of that stint. He's now over 20 seconds in front.
That's the number 70 going round.
Max Petrasky.
That's
Petrasky. How he went off. That's how he lost his time. Max overcooked it, too eager on his throttle, and round he goes spinning like Kylie Minogue, as JP likes to say.
Yeah, I do hear him say that from time to time. But that mistake has cost Max Petrasky dear, and he's now 2 minutes off the overall lead. He's now 5 seconds off his nearest man that he's going to pass, and that's Matt Wright, who's in a different class to where he is at. JT Tammy's a long way behind Elko Basink, 17 seconds nearly, the gap between the pairs, and so Basink in a commanding position. But you know, you've got Jerry Chen, who's still got Ross Smith on his tail, and John Uyan, so we've got a three-way fight for the lead in the over 2 litre AMS. In the under 2 litre AMS, John Mayer is he's nearly half a minute clear over Christian Dauger, who's basically on his own right now, and Matt Overton a long way behind. Angelidis has come into the pits again, by the looks of it. And so what has happened to Angelidis? Because surely he had made a pit stop not too long ago, and he's having to come back into the pits again. Is that a repair job?
It's definitely going to be a repair job. That is not a planned pit stop. George has been in, and he's probably been making himself very friendly with the tyres. The tyre barriers, that is.
Ross Smith is getting on with the job and staying in touch with Jerry Chen. The gap is now under 4 tenths. Behind them, you can see John Union's got Gilles Lalonde in front of him. But there goes Ross Smith to the outside of Jerry Chen. That was fuel saving from Jerry Chen. That was no genuine fight whatsoever. And we have a new leader in the over 2 litre AMS. That is Ross Smith through. And Jerry Chen is just, I think he's going to stay in the tow of him and try and fuel save.
Even though that was clearly fuel saving from Jerry, that is going to put a massive smile on Ross Smith's face. For the BMW to overtake the Porsche on a straight, that's going to feel good. And that is going to make Ross very confident for this race going forwards.
And that's Gilles Lalonde going through on the road ahead of Jerry Chen. Although Jerry Chen has something to say on that. He's doing the switcheroo on the way to turn number 14.
Yeah, Jerry Chen is having nothing of that, is he? He does not want Gilles in between him and Ross, so he let Ross through easily, but Gilles, he just says no. As Gilles fights back again, the two turbo cars really going at it on the straight, using their turbo power. Will Gilles make a dive on Ross as well as we come down into the U-turn? They're all going at it, and Ross has lost out. That is the difference the turbo can make. Gilles into the tyres. He overcooked it and got a bit of target fixation on the cars around him. Brake too late, but Jerry has used that to get back in front of Ross.
Yeah, he focused on the cars around him rather than his own driving, which is very easy to do in any form of racing. If your name is Gilles Lalonde, who has dropped down the order as a consequence, there's no doubt it's going to have damage to his machine. But at least that is less of a worry now for John Uyan and Ross Smith and Jerry Chen, who won't have to worry about Gilles Lalonde any longer, and they can just get on with their own class race.
We have George Angelidis. Oh, that is not playing that replay. I mean, what?
That's a live image at the bottom there. I don't know who's actually stopped there. Is that George?
George Angelidis. There's George Angelidis and Gilles Lalonde. Both stopped in our picture.
So Lalonde is shown as DNF now, and Vinicius Goncalves is also off the circuit. That is a very strange place to see them stop there. I don't know if there's been some technical difficulties involving both of the cars, but
John Uyan's up, looking up the inside. Ross is looking around the outside, going into the chicane for the warehouse straight. Jerry holds off Ross, holds him up in the middle of the chicane, which gets John all excited. John swerving around, squealing his back tyres, trying to make the most of it and get past both of these cars, but he's blocked off as Ross goes to the outside, coming into turn 11 and 12. This is normally where lots of fuel savings happening, so they're going to be really racing and they're not going to be used to flying through there. You can see Ross squirming, John to the inside now. John still on the inside. That's going to slow down his exit and give Ross a chance to get back into the slipstream of Jerry Chen. But the problem is that M1 has not got the straight line speed, so he isn't able to slipstream past Jerry Chen, but John Uyan has had to dip back into Ross's slipstream, and they're back at status quo.
a superlative fight between Jerry Chen, Ross Smith and John Uyan for the class lead in the over 2 litre AMS, as we see John Uyan go through on Ross Smith that time around over at turn number 14. As we go onto the backstretch towards Sunset Bend, Ross Smith cutting back on the inside of John Uyan, and this is allowing Jerry Chen to scamper off into the distance a little bit, but he has got a back mark ahead of him, which he won't want to have to contend with. There goes Uyan back through on Smith before the final 180-degree bend before the lap is out.
Yep, good move by John Uyan there. That time not sacrificing his exit so much, which he didn't before. So he should hold it in front of Ross. John Uyan has had great race pace so far in this race, whereas Ross Smith is doing massive fuel saving. So we might see them come together again. We might see John sort of storm away now. If he can get Jerry quickly, John can build up a lead, and we won't see Ross and John Uyan together again for a little while if that happens.
Jules Lalonde's non-finish confirms that he will come away from this with still no points to his name after 5 rounds. So it's not been a good start to the season, in all honesty, for Jules Lalonde. But the next time he'll be racing will be at Watkins Glen in 5 weeks' time, which is the next round after this one. But there we see Uyan, Smith and Chen. Chen still leading the triplet, and there is a back mark ahead of him, which they'll need to navigate very, very soon. I don't know which back marker that is.
It's either Paula or Schultz.
Yeah, it's
I
one of...
believe it is Schultz.
Schultz is the one in the BMW 320 Turbo.
As John goes round the outside, round the hairpin. Jerry to the inside, going into the chicane. Is Jerry going to fight? Jerry does not. Jerry backs off. Jerry's a very sensible driver, and he's just going to think, well, I'll get John fuel. John's burning fuel. I'm saving fuel. I'll get him again, or he'll get him on the straight with his massive turbo. Yeah,
the trophy's now 20 seconds off the leading triplet. Now, if they keep tussling, he may be able to get back into play for the class win. Eduardo Beninca will go back to the over 2 litre pros. Beninca's lead over Sellers is 1.1 seconds, or it's like fluctuating between...
Down to 8 tenths, between 8 tenths and 1.1, isn't it? They seem to be fast at different points of the track, which makes sense with the turbo car and the great handling NA Ferrari.
Yeah, and this is leaving Herlock to fight amongst himself at the moment, because he's now 8 seconds off the lead. But these two are nose to tail. Sellers coming into his zone in this race after fuel saving earlier. Basenk is still leading in the under 2 litre pros, a long way clear over his nearest rival in the order. That is JT Tammy, who has got Ethan Funk on his tail now as well. So we've got a fight for second place in the under 2 litre pros. And as I've already mentioned earlier, John Mayer is a long way clear over Christian Dauger. It looks like a foregone conclusion in that respective battle, unless Mayer makes an absolute...
The rain is coming down. In Florida, anything can happen. And as Murray always used to say, anything can happen, and it usually does. Yep. Here comes the rain.
Yeah, here comes the rain, but we're not anywhere near the crossover point to make the switch to wets just yet, so it may just be a quick douse before it dries off. We saw it at Monza earlier this season, Becky, where the rain did come down, albeit for a short period of time, And there was this debate whether it was best to go onto the wets and then back onto the slicks, or whether it was best to just stay on the slicks and make it switch to another set of slicks and saving an extra pit stop.
So we have Bradley Sellers really going for it. Bradley Sellers is comfortable with the weather, as John Uyan is not comfortable with the weather and flies off and into the wall. So John Uyan is definitely suffering with the rain, and he goes for a big jump whilst trying to get back on the track as the two launches of Ethan Funk and JT go past.
Yeah.
That's going to really cost Uyan, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to cost Uyan. That was a long way off the circuit he went there on the exit of Tower Bend. But there we see the two leaders overall. As he got a yellow flag as well. Yellow flag. There's been a yellow flag in Sector 2 in, so that Max Petrofsky has also been off the circuit. But this is the closest that Sellers has been to Eduardo Beninca since the pit cycle for the first round had concluded. But now you can see, I think, is that Petrofsky in front of them that they're trying to lap there? Or is that, yeah, it's Petrofsky, because he's yet to be lapped in this one. So Petrofsky, who has been in the lead in the class earlier, is really struggling to keep his car on the circuit. The windscreen wipers are already out, but this is by no means the point where they need to pit in for slicks. It's just not going to be as grippy. But how much time are you going to lose just by making the switch to wets without putting more fuel in? But they're going to have to put fuel in, because the amount of time you're going to lose by being in the pits to change tyres alone is going to be humongous. So you may as well just put in another... I mean, I don't know how much fuel they're going to need to put in, because it has been too long since the first pit cycle.
If they are going to stop, they're probably going to want to wait, because it takes such a long time to change tyres, such a long time to do a pit stop. They'll wait until they can make it work for their strategy. At the moment, we've got 9% rain. It is increasing. It's increased from 3 to 7 to 9%.
And it's 5% now on our timing pages, so it keeps fluctuating at the moment. This is Alan Smith who oh, that's a barrel roll and a half for Alan Smith. Well, I say that's a barrel and a half, that more like 3 barrel rolls there for Smith, but unbelievably he's able to continue on his way unless he's stopped there. I'd imagine he's taken a significant amount of damage from that. Daniel Fowler has made his way into the pit lane, and there we see a slide from Bradley Sellers as he continues his pursuit for the race lead.
I give Alan Smith a 9.5 out of 10 for that barrel roll. It was quite classy through the stand as well there. Excellent. I hope he does continue though. I hope he doesn't give up. We've had Kirsten off and seen Alan Smith. There he goes. Underneath the person filming, and a lovely barrel roll. Look at that. The camera person, of course. That he goes underneath, and he slides a bit on his roof, slides a bit on his side. That's Casper sliding, skateboarding on his roof. Then he goes into a primo on his side. The skills that pay the bills by Alan Smith there.
Yeah, and the way you barrel roll there, where the scaffolding is with the cameraman, it gave me shades of Snetterton in British touring cars, which wasn't particularly pleasant, but the camera person did survive that, thankfully.
We have Matt Overton into the pits. Is this going to be for wet tyre?
It could well be, but I just don't think the track is slippy enough to put the wet weather tyres on. This is Matt Overton we're going to see on a replay here. That's with Kirsten, and that was the pair of them not really focusing on making the corner, to be honest with you. It was just more like focusing on each other, just doing their utmost to not run into each other, but they did run into each other that time around. This is Petrofsky, who's been off again, and oh dearie me. We've got an incident involving the two leaders. Beninca and Sellers have been off the circuit. Where have they done it? It looks like damage has been made to Sellers' car.
Sellers going very slowly now after that. Herlock is through. Herlock is only 2.4 behind Eduardo. Sellers is not very happy by healing from that incident.
No, and as you can see, he's struggling. Oh, and that's another car.
In the background, that's Petrofsky doing Petrofsky things again, but he is struggling with the rears in this rain, which is still at 9% in the game.
Yeah, you can visually see the rain coming down now, so this might be the point where wet tyres are needed. This is Bradley Sellers and Eduardo Beninca. Well, what has he managed to do here? You can just see the sliding around. It's as they're applying the throttle. This is even on the straight. This is not even going through a slow corner or a medium speed corner. This is them completely missing their braking point at the end of the hairpin here. So we can see Beninka first, then Sellers. Oh, Beninka spins first. Oh, and Sellers just... Oh, he got it slowed down. But did he take damage from it? I don't think he did. Has he lost the engine for a brief moment there? Because it looked like he was low on the revs before he was able to apply the power.
I think Sellers was so shocked by Beninka then just turning into him as he got going. I imagine Beninka was just spinning up the rears in this wet. These cars do have 500 horsepower and it is raining. I imagine he spun up the rears and went into Sellers. Sellers was so shocked, I don't think he even went.
This is Dan Herlock now as well. He's in the lead, believe it or not, he's Dan Herlock. So despite the off, he's just gone through and wisely going around the barriers at that particular part of the course. He's now in the lead. So it looks...
We've now got Johnny Gutierrez as well, making a mistake in the rain, going down into the hairpin. You see a little lock up there and the rears are just gone as the track undulates round. A good save by Johnny. We've got Petrasky again going off. Walter is into the pits, probably for some wets. Petrasky takes avoiding action just like Dan Herlock did. Eduardo Beninka is 15 seconds down. We've got another one, back right, coming off. Everyone is struggling now. Are they going to take wets, do you think?
Yeah, well, they probably should do. There are drivers left, right and side falling off the circuit. Valtteri De Bruyne is in the pit lane. He's put on wets. So it's a matter of time before he comes back out. And Mike Bell is the latest to cause the yellow flag. It's endless action here at the moment in Sebring. And that is Petrovsky again going off the circuit. And Dahlgren has been off as well. The man who was in the lead in the early phases of the race is continuing to struggle. And Magnus Dahlgren.
So he is taking the wet tyres. Beninka has been off. They are literally skating around like pigs on grease right now.
And Dahlgren has put on the wets, and further behind, I think Dalga and Fowler have opted to go for the wets, but they've got nothing to lose now as well. John Mayer, the leader in the under 2 litre AMS, has been off the circuit. He had a handsome lead over Christian Dalga, who's made his way into the pit lane. He's on wets now, as is John Mayer. So this could be the point where the wet tyres are going to be very much needed here. They're going to be losing too much time. Looking at the last lap times they've been posting, Bradley Sellers posted a 2 minute 57. That's over 20 seconds slower compared to what they've previously done.
We have Mike Bell off again. And Magnus, Johnny and Walter, Magnus, Johnny, Gutierrez and Walter still in the pits. So they're obviously taking a lot of fuel. We've got George Angelidis in the pits as well. So everyone's fueling up, which it is about time for, with 1 hour to go. If it stays wet, they can make it work. So are these going to benefit by taking the early stops?
The leaders are trying to eke out the fuel, but they're losing too much time by spinning off the circuit. As you can see, is that Overton?
Alex Schultz.
It's Alex Schultz, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is a tricky point in the race now. You've got a decision to make whether to see it out, see the slicks out in the rain, or you come in and put wet weather tyres on. But
Ross
the thing
Smith
is,
in, so he must be going for the wets because he went the longest out of everyone, as that's Ethan Funk off as well. Mike Bell has blown his engine.
yeah, and I mean, Mike Bell has, well, he's encountered issues there, and he is out of the race. The third driver to DNF. I wonder if we're going to get a few more at this rate.
He's got stuck on the sand, so the sand actually has zero grip. Rather than having a bit of grip, there's zero grip sand berms.
Yeah.
He's just accelerating and blew his engine. Unfortunately for him, he needed to...
Sorry to interrupt, Becky. Sorry to interrupt. Hurler off the circuit now at Tower Bend, and luckily he's able to keep it on the tarmac. But you can just see how much they're sliding around. The rain visually is coming out. Look at the puddles. The puddles are visual. So they're going to be struggling now, the leaders on the slicks. This must be the time in the race to be coming in for the wets. Bradley Sellers is in for the wets.
That was a fantastic save by Dan Herlock, sliding around. He really does have incredible car control. So he is doing amazingly to keep up the pace. But his last lap was a 2:55. That is 4 seconds faster than anyone else on the circuit.
Out of all those on the slicks at least anyway. This is Mike Bell, I think we're looking at. As he goes through on... Is that Schultz he was fighting with? Don't know, but he went off the circuit, and for the moment he ended up beached on the sand. He basically cooked the engine from there, and that was race over for Mike Bell. It had been an eventual race for him, and it's got worse there. So he is now out of the race along with Gilles Lalonde and Joey Smith, who didn't even start this one. Bradley Sellers in the pit lane now. I am curious as to how long he's going to be in the pits for before he comes back out. But surely, if you're going to be on the wets, we need to see a comparison in lap times between those on the wets compared to those on the slicks.
We have Magnus out and Johnny Gutierrez out. So Johnny Gutierrez has just done a 41.1, and I believe he must be on the wet tyres. Dan Hurlock, on the other hand, has done a 39.5. Gutierrez is 2 seconds slower in the first sector on his cold wet tyres, and Dan Hurlock is on his hot dry tyres.
Yeah, the slicks are those on the slicks are trying to eke out the fuel for when they come in, so it saves them having to do an extra pit stop. Is the rain still coming down? Because I can't really see it as clearly.
The rain is on 7% now. It has dropped from 9% on the track down to 7.
Some of the puddles are happening. Well, you can see some of the puddles on circuit is what I was trying to allude to. But there is Dan Hurlock, who's trying to put a lap on one of the Ferraris coming around out of the last corner. That's John Uyan, isn't it? So John Uyan, who's now, well, he's in the lead at the moment. Is John Uyan in the over 2 litre AMS? And we've got pit stop now. I think Hurlock has decided that the wet tyres are necessary. What do Kirsten and Beninka decide to do? Are they going to come in for wets? If I was them, I'd probably do it.
Judging from that line, I'd say he is.
No, he's not.
Kirsten is carrying on.
Kirsten is in. Beninka is coming into the pit lane.
Beninka is in. Kirsten's out. Beninka's in. Hurlock's in. Elko Bussing in the lead of the under 2 litre pros is in. Kirsten has been the only one to stay out by the looks of it right now. We'll see if Oliver Day, Timon Suvic come in or not. They're also on the dry tyres.
We've got 2 different races now with drivers on slicks and some on the wets. And Oliver Day is he's coming round the last corner. Is he going to make his way into the pit lane to put a set of wet weather tyres on?
Oliver Day is in, and Walter de Bruyne is now getting up to temperature with the wet tyres, and he has done a 36.7 compared to Nicholas Kirsten's 38.3, so he's 1.6 faster in the first sector Walter de Bruyne than Nicholas Kirsten.
Yeah, at this rate I can see Walter de Bruyne getting closer to the likes of Day, Beninka and Hurlock, depending on how long they actually take in completing their stops. But there is Bradley Sellers, who is running in... Oh, that's Walter de Bruyne, sorry. He's running in 6th position. Schultz is the latest to go off the circuit, Becky.
De Bruyne has jumped Sellers with his earlier stop and putting on wet tyres. However, the rain is down to 1% now. So the wipers are still going, and it's just hit 0. The wipers are still going, but the rain has hit 0%. This is a masterful play by Nicholas Kirsten and probably Timon Suvic as well, who have stayed out.
Well, the puddles are still around, so it's going to be tricky at the moment for those on the slicks to basically brave out the conditions. I wonder how long it'll be if the rain does return, though. Then that's going to still play into the hands of those on the wets. But we've got a considerable number of puddles out on circuit. There is Timon Suvic, who is running in 2nd position in class right now.
Amazing for Timon Suvic. He has gone from P0, where he was fighting with the 2 litre AMS earlier in the race, and now he's in 2nd position through staying. Yep, there's still Oliver Day, Eduardo Beninka, Dan still just putting on their wet tyres, even though the rain has stopped. You should have heard the cries in the team chat.
JT Tammy, we've been informed, has been off the circuit as well. We'll get more on that in a moment. But looking at Walter de Bruyne, now surely he's going to go up into 3rd place, although Hurlock is coming back out on his brand new set of wets. Here is a replay. It looks like JT Tammy has retired. He's gone no further, Becky, and this is the reason why. He's done exactly the same or similar to what Alan Smith did. This time, the problem is more terminal.
he has. He's bouncing a lot more, whereas Alan Smith did quite a neat barrel roll. JT hit hard, and it looks like he's stuck upside down.
Yeah.
JT will probably come back because it's worth coming back to get the points. So I suspect we'll see him back in a few minutes. On our factory, he can do that. He'll just close the game, restart it. He'll be a few laps down, but he'll be able to finish the race. And with only 6 other people,
sorry,
he'll clear up the point.
Kirsten's off the circuit briefly, but he's come back on it now. But you just see how hard it... Oh, he goes off again as well at turn number 2. So if I was Kirsten, I'd just take it a little bit easy, especially through the first part of the course where we saw Alan Smith and JT Temi go off. The last thing that Kirsten needs is an error that sees him barrel roll and ends up upside down from what we saw with JT Temi. That's going to cost him big time if that happens. So if I was Nicholas Kirsten, I would just take it easy from here on in.
I love the Kirsten. He has got an 85-second lead. He doesn't need to be taking these risks.
And we can just see Dan Herlock on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side of your picture, just look to see who it's. Nicholas Kirsten, who is it Nicholas Kirsten? I think
It's Nicholas Kirsten. Kirsten who is leading, and we've got Dan Herlock who is in third, the leader of the race. Kirsten is off again. He's pushing hard, and even though the rain stopped, the track's not drying out yet, and Kirsten is really starting to slip and slide around.
I think that might be a replay of Kirsten going off the circuit earlier, because I'm sure he's further on around the circuit.
I think it is live. I think Kirsten is making similar mistakes. He's just pushing as hard as he can still.
Well, we see Dan Herlock in third place, and Wouter de Bruijn is a little not too far behind him now, actually, but Timon Suvek has opted to come into the pits. Now, if the rain stops, is that going to give him... Are the wet tyres really the tyres to be on now? Because I'm sure that Suvek is... he's thinking about maybe doing slicks.
The wet tyres are the tyres to be on right now, but they probably won't be for long. So we'll have to see whether people can make up the time. Even people on wet tyres are struggling with a bit of a dry line.
It was a 2:52 for Wouter de Bruijn, and Nicholas Kirsten did a 3:01, didn't he? So yeah, the wet tyres are definitely the ones to be on. But I'm just curious as to how long it will be before the water is dispersed from those on the wet tyres, and they'll end up wearing out very, very quickly now. Dan Herlock into second place on circuit. He's a long way off Nicholas Kirsten. Oh, that's contact between Herlock and the 66. That's Jerry Chen who he's collided with. It's unlikely we see Jerry Chen make an error like that, but the two drivers from different classes coming together at Tower Bend.
I would say that was Jerry Chen's error. I think Dan Herlock didn't really appreciate the closing speed between him and the AM driver.
We're going to see a replay then. So that is Herlock. I mean, Chen does miss the apex, and Herlock just doesn't slow the car down and just ends up running into him. Chen was lucky; he didn't end up being beached on the sand there.
So Jerry Chen, he drives a safe race. He stays consistent. He stays in the race. That's how he wins his championships in AM. Dan Herlock is a fast driver. I don't think he quite realise the closing speed difference, especially as the BMW. These are the conditions the BMW loves. These are the conditions that Porsche hates. There's just a mismatch and a miscommunication.
And we've got Nicholas Kirsten, who has decided that it's best for him to make his way into the pit lane. He's probably stayed out too long, unless he's thinking further down the line. You know, he's gone a little bit further. He's probably going to put more fuel in to try and go a little bit further compared to these. There's no way he's going to go to the end. So, you know, we've only got 120 litres of fuel, but in wet weather conditions, you can save more fuel at this stage. I would imagine that he is going to end up going on the wet.
He's not going to change his tyres. Personally, there's no way going to change his tyres. This is his scheduled stop. He has saved a lot of fuel because of the wet weather, but because he's just his scheduled stop, he's going to stay on top, so it stopped raining. He's slow at the moment, and he is losing 10 seconds a lap on the fastest of the wet weather drivers. But there's no point taking wets when the track is going to dry. The wet weather drivers need to be 40 seconds in front of him to change back to dries later on. Yep. He's got a big gap at the moment.
Well, Herlock is coming round Sunset Bend in a moment, and he's going to be the one taking over the lead from Nicholas Kirsten. And Suvic, we understand, has kept hold of the soft compound. He's down in 11th position overall. He's on the lead lap still, he was in 2nd position overall before he came in. He's chasing after Ross Smith at the moment overall, although they're in different classes.
Is passing Kirsten for the lead overall, so we'll have to see how far behind Kirsten comes out. Once Herlock has a gap of over 40 seconds, he has enough time in the final stop to put dries back on, put the slicks back on.
And there is Nicholas Kirsten, you can see on the bottom right hand corner of your screen, still in the box right now. Yeah, there he is. He's just leaving the pit lane. He's left the box and he'll be out in what is expected to be 4. So he's in P4 now, is Nicholas Kirsten. A long way from Beninka. But there is your new race leader, Dan Herlock, 11 seconds clear over Valter de Bruyne, who's benefited from the cycle there of going on the full wets. And well, he's going quicker than Herlock right now. He posted a lap time of 2 minute 51 dead compared to Herlock, who did a 2 minute 52.7.
Great move by de Bruyne, wasn't it, to pit early and get those wet tyres on. You're also interested to see Bradley Sellers is even faster than Walter de Bruyne. They are all concertinaing up. Let's see if they can concertina up so we can have a great battle.
And there they are on full wets. You can just see Valter de Bruyne as he applies the throttle on the exit of the hairpin, doing his utmost to close in on her. It looked like he closed in him at the beginning of this lap, but now he's going back up towards 12 seconds.
You can see the dry line, so the wet tyres are going to be really starting to struggle now, and Nicholas Kirsten might come back into his own.
Yeah, but there we see Valter de Bruyne, who's got his headlights on now, so we're heading towards the phase where darkness is beckoning. But Valter de Bruyne is in 2nd place ahead of Bradley Sellers, who's run about 6 seconds off him. Nicholas Kirsten, who has put on, is stuck with the slicks. We'll start to see a comparison between the wets and the softs. I would probably say we're at the crossover point between the softs and the wets. But as we have a look further down the order, Alan Smith is in the pit lane, who is on softs at the moment. So he is braving the conditions a little. John Mayer still leading the way in the under 2 litre AMS. A long way clear over Christian Dowager, who I think may well be close to being a lap down on him. You can see he's 80 seconds off him nearly, is Dowager. So John Mayer may have this one sewn up in that respective category. Basink is still leading the way ahead of Ethan Funk and Matt Wright. But finishes John Chalvez as the latest come into the pit lane, Becky.
Yep, so that would be just for his scheduled stop. He is making the most of the fuel saving, keeping his slick tyres on. As we can see right now, the wet tyres is still the tyre to be on, as Nicholas Kirsten on his outlap was 2.3 seconds slower than Herlock and de Bruyne in front in Sector 2 alone.
But we are going to get to that crossover point very, very soon, as the headlights are becoming increasingly visual now. This is going to provide a different challenge to the drivers. And here's the order then, as far as this race has been going here in Sebring. Dan Herlock leading the way over Valter de Bruyne, with Bradley Sellers in 3rd place. And Nicholas Kirsten in 4th, ahead of Eduardo Beninka. And Magnus Dahlgren, who was leading the race at the early stages, he's now down to 6th, ahead of Johnny Gutierrez, Oliver Day, Timon Suvic and Mike Bell, who is who's one of 2 drivers in the class out of the race so far in the over 2 litre pros. In the over 2 litre AMS, Ross Smith is in the lead now, ahead of John Uyan. Finishes John Calves, who he's in the pits at the moment. He's shown in 4th position now, behind Jerry Chun, who's moved up. And it's Steve Carman, Max Petrovsky and George Angelidis. The only driver who didn't even start in that one is Joey Smith. Going on to the under 2 litre pros, Ilko Basink is in the lead, ahead of Ethan Funk, with Matt Wright in 3rd position, just waiting for him to cross over the line to remain on the lead up in that particular class. Alan Smith has just pitted, and it's Alexander Schultz, Dan Fowler and JT Tammy, who we just recently lost for a bit, but I think he's back in the race now, albeit a long way behind. And finally, in the under 2 litre AMS, John Mayer, over a minute clear over Christian Dowager, with Matt Overton on his own in 3rd position.
Yeah, JT Tammy was very unlucky to end up stuck on his roof like a turtle, squirming around, and that has ruined his race, but at least he's going to pick up points.
And this is a replay that we're about to see now. That's the number. Is that Petrafsky? That's not Petrafsky, is it? It's Kirsten.
Struggling on his dry tyres.
That was Kirsten who went off the circuit there and rejoined it. You can just see the sunshine in the background there.
Sunset there. That's why they renamed the U-turn to Sunset, isn't it? Perfect example there. As we see the replay of Kirsten going off round turn 14.
And rejoining the race is Nicholas Kirsten in 4th position. He's on the slicks, remember, so he hasn't got those tyres into the optimal window just yet. And this will make it more of a challenge for us as the broadcasters
to... I see there, and there's a crash in the background.
Yeah, that's a car off at the last corner. We'll find out exactly who that is. It might be Dan Fowler who's off the circuit, but we'll get more on that in a moment. Well, I was going to say, with darkness now over Sebring, it's going to make it more challenging for us to spot who is who. But we can see Dan Herlock in the lead at the moment. That's a back marker behind him.
We'll find he's just over behind him. Looked like he may have come together with Fowler. Fowler was stuck off the road on the escape road as Herlock goes wide.
Yeah.
Onto the grass. That grass is going to be super slippery, so you need to be careful with that one.
Yeah, so he needs to make his way through without any drama here, Dan Herlock. He is on the wet tyres still at the moment, and he may be flying at the moment, but he won't want to overdo it at this at this stage now in the race, considering that the track is still damp, and he'll get to the crossover point where they'll need to go back on the slicks. Well, it's a 2:48 that Dan did on the previous lap. Nicholas Kirsten in 4th place on the 6 did a 2:53. So Herlock is actually 5 seconds faster than what Kirsten did, who is on the 6. So the wet tyres, I'd probably say, are still the tyres to be on, but it's a matter of time before they start falling away and the 6 tyres become the necessary rubber.
Herlock is soon going to reach the magic 40-second mark, though, where you say he is in front on the track. Once the track changes, we've had Matt Overton DNF.
Yeah, Overton out of the race, unfortunately, so he's the first of the under 2 litre AMs to pull out of this one. JT Terry will at least move up a position.
That's going to have a big effect on the under 2 litre AM championship, because they were very close now, and John Mayer is going to pull a whole 20 points in front of Matt Overton. I know they're teammates, but they are fighting it out for the championship.
It's every driver for themselves as far as the VWSC 1981 series is concerned. As much as there is a team standings, every driver is racing for themselves, and Matt Overton is out of the race. Christian Dalgier is going to take advantage potentially. If he could just finish that class, or finish this race in the class, he will end up scoring. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2, and Dan Fowler is also out of the race now as well. So we're beginning to lose drivers left, right and centre. That's 5 now out of the race. JT Terry will move up to 24th and last position. And Basink, we are told, the man leading the under 2 litre pros, has also had some drama.
Yeah, he has lost a lot of time. He had about 18 seconds on Ethan Funk, as we have the replay coming up now for Elko Basink.
Where's he managed to do it? This is over at turn 13, I believe. Oh, he absolutely found the barrier as well. Not the most pleasant way to have drama there, but I just wonder how much damage that has caused to Elko Basink's machine.
It has caused damage, because I just overheard him say, "Oh, now I've got to drive like this." I'll try and find out.
And that's Elko Basink losing time. He's got 9 seconds in hand over Ethan Funk right now. Alan Smith has come back into the pit lane, or one of the Smiths, I should say. This is Dan Fowler, who always done exactly the same thing. Well, kind of, except he found the barrier before he hit the sand, and that saw him rebound back onto the left-hand side of the course, and that was good enough for him to pull to the side, and there was some smoke coming out from the back. So I wonder if that damaged the engine, because they are front engine machines, these, after all. So I'd imagine the front side has taken a bit of a beating there, and so that is race over for Dan Fowler.
Once the smoke starts, the likelihood is he only has a few laps left. I just asked Elko about his damage. I asked, "How damaged is your car, Elko?" And he went, "Yes." He says he's got no front end, so he might have lost the splitter, and that is going to be big.
Yeah, well, he's losing time now. What was a 9-second lead the last I spoke is now less than 4 seconds between him and Funk. So there's no doubt that Basing is struggling at this stage in the race. I think Carmen's just moved in front of Goncalves for position in class now as well. He's in 4th position in the 2-litre AMS, or the over 2-litre AMS. And I think Gutierrez has moved in front of Dahlgren now, who's continuing to struggle. He's on the wets, remember, is Dahlgren. And I think the wets are not exactly playing into the hands for him. Valter de Bruyne is still in 2nd place, 16 seconds off the lead of Dan Hurlock, with Bradley Sellers on his tail. So that we've got now a genuine battle for 2nd place overall, as we see a replay of Dahlgren going off the circuit. And that was all Johnny Gutierrez needed to go in front. Yeah.
Lovely for Johnny. I like it when overtakes are that simple. I'm sure everyone does. But we will see Bradley Sellers going past Walter de Bruyne for 2nd place if their pace continues. And Bradley Sellers last lap was 3 seconds faster than de Bruyne. So can he get that second off of him? They were stuck behind Elko just a minute ago.
Nicholas Kirsten is still going 3 seconds slower than what Dan Hurlock is doing, but his pace is still similar to what Valter de Bruyne is doing. So I would say we are at that crossover point, but I am worried as to how long it'll be before they need to pit in again for a final splash and dash.
It will probably be quite a while because of the amount of time the track has been wet. But by the time they have to pit and by the time the crossover happens, I don't think anyone's going to bother changing back onto slicks because it's not worth the 40 seconds penalty.
I don't know, because the thing is, when those wet tyres start to struggle to find any water on the circuit, they just end up overheating and just not going to have the grip that you need to make it through the corners. So I'd be tempted to counter that, Becky, by saying it may well be worth going on the slicks, but it just depends on how far in the race we go before we are at the point where slicks are needed.
I'm going to counter your counter there, Tom, because I know from driving wets on a dry track at Monza, it was slower, but it wasn't significantly slower. The wets held on the dry track very nicely, and I don't think it's going to be worth a 40-second penalty when it probably only cost them 3 or so seconds a lap.
And you can see Smith on the timing tower. Just ignore that for the time being. We'll just wait for the timing tower to update before we find out exactly where he is. We are told that Schultz has retired from the race. That's another driver gone from this race. Alex Schultz in the BMW 320 Turbo has also stopped on the circuit, and it's an engine failure again for Schultz, so that's him gone from this.
JT Tam will be smiling from that as his teammate runs a bit wide as he's closing up on Bussing. Ethan Funk is going to be salivating at this, seeing how slow Bussing's going with his damage.
Ethan Funk didn't really make the hairpin actually as he chased after Bussing. Bussing's done well actually since he got the damage earlier to maintain the gap over Funk, as we see Sellers on the tail of Valter de Bruyne for 2nd place. There is de Bruyne in, you can just see in that blue and white Ford Mustang ahead of the fellow Ford Mustang of Bradley Sellers. But there is Sellers on the tail, making up all the lost time.
I know they're teammates, but Brad's got to be thinking, get out of the way, Router. I want to go and chase down Dan Hurlock. I am going really fast. I'm very comfortable. I'm the fastest person on the track right now.
And there we see Sellers. He pulled out a little bit there, thought about it, but decided it wasn't worth the risk. You could just see de Bruyne slide his... He's made a mistake, actually, is de Bruyne. That was a really poor execution of turn 14, and that is going to allow Sellers to into 2nd place on the backstretch.
Another nice simple one there for Brad. Brad will be happy with that. And now he's got to go chase Dan Hurlock. 20-second gap with 37 minutes to go. That is going to be a hard ask.
Yeah, Kirsten, his previous lap times are 2:50.6 compared to how Hurlock, Sellers and de Bruyne have done 47s and 49s. So it's still close, but I'd probably say it's still wet weather tyre territory at the moment. And Ethan Funk has, I think this is him just missing the hairpin here. We saw the live images, yeah. So, and this is Eduardo Beninca is going to do exactly the same thing, miss the apex, and almost go for a little bit of lawn mowing there. Oh, his entry is really poor actually for Eduardo Beninca. Kirsten has had another off-track moment on the slicks. Oh, he's already going actually. It didn't look like he was going to make the corner, and wisely went round the barrier, so just carried a little too much speed there has Nicholas Kirsten. He's lucky because he could have easily found the barrier, and that would be his race heavily compromised.
That has let Eduardo through on the wets, so now Eduardo's going to be scampering away from him. And Kirsten's done it again. I repeat, I guess he did it at both turn 13 and 14 on that lap. You see Eduardo sliding around under power. As I said earlier, Eduardo Beninca, he has one setting and it is go fast. Love to see him.
Yeah. So it's almost like the dry lines are beginning to appear at the moment, but that doesn't seem to be putting the leaders off who are on the wets. Those are on the slicks now as well. Obviously, I mentioned Kirsten, who's down to 5th position. Timon Suvic, his last lap has been at 2:56. He had a really poor lap, actually. And Ethan Funk is now on the tail of Ilko Busink in the battle for the lead in the under 2 litre pros. Is Funk going to be within range to attack Busink here? It feels that way as they go on the back stretch. How will they filter through the next corner that they'll be heading through? It looks like they're heading towards Sunset Bend here. It is Sunset Bend. Funk to the outside, or switching back to the inside. Busink read that really well, actually. He saw him attempting to get through, and he just covered off the inside there. So clever driving there for Busink in a wounded BMW 320.
What Funk might not realise yet is that Busink is not going to have very good turning, so if he can get up the inside, he should have it, and Busink is really protecting the inside there by the looks of things. Oh, there he goes, there goes Funk to the inside. Can't see whether they're side by side or not right now. I'm going to switch to my time plays. It's 100ths of a second between them.
He's done it.
Ethan goes through.
Yeah, it was a slam dunk pass actually from Ethan Funk over at turn 14 before the backstretch, and we have a new leader in the under 2 litre pros. Ethan Funk takes over leadership. That was coming for some time, given the handling that Busink will have had to have suffered over the last few laps. Matt Wright is another 23 seconds off Busink actually, so I wonder if Busink is going to have to just try and nurse the car until he next pits in, because there's no doubt I think he'll want to try and repair it should he have enough time.
Busink was 3 seconds a lap slower than Matt Wright last time, with only 34 minutes
Funk's
to
in.
go.
I think
unsure whether that's going to be the end. Funk in, Elko Busink following him. So they obviously think they can get to the end now. Does that mean Funk is going to be taking dry tyres?
I think they will.
Early?
Yeah, if it's not going to rain again, they'll go on slicks. Even if the track isn't at its optimal window for the switch. Yeah, they're taking slicks now. Because otherwise, if they go on full wets again or stay on the wets, they'll have to come in for slicks again. And we've got a replay. Something ominous has occurred as we hear from our producer. That's Oliver Day.
That is a Mustang engine blown up. That is unfortunate for Oliver Day, as he just does a little bunny hop running off the track.
The engine
a little
going.
dolly, if you will, Oliver Day, if you watch this back, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah, the engine going there for the pole sitter. And Dan Hurlock's out! Dan Hurlock, the leader of the race, has gone out. We don't know exactly what's happened to him. Now, whether that was an off-track excursion or something mechanical has cost him the lead.
It's a disconnect. Dan has had a disconnect. Poor
That's
Dan.
torrid luck. That is torrid luck for Dan Hurlock. Not what he needed at this stage in the race. Was it a disconnect? Yes, it was.
That hands lead to Bradley Sellers. Poor Dan, with a 40-second lead over Nicholas Kirsten on the dries, and what was it, about a 20-second lead on Brad?
Yeah. But this is played into the hands of Kirsten now, because he won't need to pit in for now, because he's already on the slicks. But those on the full wets are going to need to pit in very, very soon. If Busink and Funk have opted to come in for slicks now, surely that must be basically the prompt that the leaders need to think about coming for slicks. Jerry Chen is also in, and he's on slicks now as well.
I'm gonna take a punt, and I'm gonna guess that a lot of the front runners aren't gonna change to slicks. I think they're gonna be confident enough in their abilities to run the wet tyre to the end and not take the 40-second penalty of changing to slicks. I reckon Elko Bussing has done it because he's preparing the car as well, and he thought, well, might as well put the right tyres on, and absolutely done it to the end. Ethan Funk has been sliding around a bit. I think he wanted the safety of the dry tyres.
Well, the fact that they've come in now, surely they will. We're going to try and go to the end, which could pay dividends later on. And Petrovsky is the latest to pull out of it. Now, is that an engine failure? Is that a disconnect? Or is that an off-track excursion? We'll find out exactly what happened to Max Petrovsky, who has had a very eventful race. He was running in the lead in the over 2 litre AMS in the early part of this. But we're going to see what he had been up to. He's had a lot of off-track excursions, to be fair, in this race as Petrovsky. He's been off again, and that was a crash.
That was a very strange crash, though. That was like a wheel disconnect. He did lose his front right wheel as he hit, but it looked like he didn't turn in as if his wheel stopped. Looks like a technical failure more than anything. Johnny Gutierrez is in the pits for his final stop as well. It looks like Johnny is staying on the wets according to my timing screen. Yeah,
we've had a lot of people coming in the live chat. Hello to Bandit, who's joined in. Peter Davis is saying goodness gracious, and Ethan Funk seems to have a lot of supporters now as well that's joined in, or has a supporter joining in. A lot has all kicked off in the last few laps, and we've got half an hour still to go here in Sebring. Johnny Gutierrez, the latest to come in, and we've had a lot of drivers pull out of this one now. So the ones we've lost at the moment are Dan Herlock, Oliver Day. We've also lost Max Petrovsky, Alex Schultz, Dan Fowler, Matt Overton, Mike Bell, Sheila Lond, and Jerry Smith didn't even start.
We could see a lot get added to it. Now we're in darkness as well, and people on the wet tyres slipping around on the dry track. Just to add to your YouTube hellos, I'd like to give a big hello to Mr. Reese, who waved at us very early on. He's always here. We really appreciate you being there, Mr. Reese, so thank you for joining us.
I hope you've been treated to a very, very thrilling race here on your Saturday evening, or morning, or afternoon, depending where you are around the world, or even if you're over in the Oceania continent. Good Sunday morning to you all.
I believe at least some of our racers are over there racing very early in the morning. I believe Steve Carman is, and perhaps also we have...
That's Sellers in. Sorry to interrupt you. Sellers is in.
Sellers in for his final stop. Is he staying on the wets? I think he's changing. Sellers is going onto the slicks. It's Wouter de Bruin, who was 8 seconds behind. Is he going to stay on the wets, or is he going to go onto slicks?
I think he'll go slicks. Well, this is a replay. Oh yeah, didn't make the corner. Struggled.
Yep, de Bruin struggling on the wet tyres. Johnny Gutierrez is on the wet. He is exiting. So in a lap's time, we'll see where Johnny Gutierrez shakes out in all this, staying on the wets.
Well, we'll see soon enough. Beninka's in the lead now, ahead of Kirsten. And Kirsten, who stayed on the slicks, is in second place. But his tyres are going to fall away quicker compared to those that have just gone onto the slicks. So we'll see a direct comparison between Kirsten's old rubber compared to Sellers and De Bruyne, who will come back out. Magnus Dahlgren is the latest to come in now as well. Presumably he's going to go on the slicks as well.
He's gone onto the slicks, Magnus as well. So the gap, we're just going to have to wait to see when Kirsten stops, and the gap between him and Sellers, what it's going to be.
This is Basing at turn number 1, I think, is going to have a moment here. Go too far off the racetrack. And yeah, off the racetrack he went. I would imagine he's probably gone off at turn 2 as well, because we've seen a number of drivers do that. Oh dear.
Oh,
and we've been told as well that Max Petrovsky thought he went through turn 2 when in actual fact it was turn 3 where he had crashed.
tragedy. That can happen at night time. You just get your position on the track wrong, and that is it. As we've got Nicholas Kirsten closing in on Eduardo Beninca to the lead, down to 7 seconds. Last lap, only 3 tenths difference between them, with Nicholas Kirsten being the faster. So it looks like the crossover has just happened whilst everyone is pitting, that the slicks are now faster than the wets, but it's so tight. I still don't think it's worth having a 40-second time to change it when you're only going a few tenths a lap faster.
Dan Herlock, to those who have been tuning in to support him, is now back in the race after the disconnect he had earlier. He's now sitting in 10th place overall and 7th in class. He's chasing after Matt Wright at the moment. He's had a terrific race actually in the under 2 litre pros. He's still in the wets at the moment, but if he goes along with Becky's ideologies to how the race strategy should pan out with the conditions as they are, he might just go to the end. He's got a very comfortable margin over Ethan Funk and Elko Busing.
He has, but he needs to stop again. I think regardless of what he's going to do, he's behind Ethan Funk and Elko Busing, whether he changes or not, because there's quite a big gap there. The interesting thing here for the under 2 litre pros is the 17-second gap between Funk and Busing, with Busing really pushing. He did just lose 5 seconds, but in general he does seem to be a second or so a lap faster than Funk.
Dalgan has shown that he is in the pit lane at the moment on the soft compound. Bearing in mind it's a 2.5 minute pit stop to get 120 litres of fuel put in the car to ensure that they will go to the end. But I suppose if you're Matt Wright, for instance, I can't remember when he last came in, but if he can go further into this, he will not need to put 120 litres of fuel in.
No, he'll be putting
It is in now, isn't it?
He'll be putting, about 80 litres in now. It is going to be a shorter stop. Same for Ross Smith and John William. They're going to be having shorter stops. So they were already in the lead of the 2 litre, and they're going to be massively in front of everyone else, those two, once the kind of shake out. And Herlock having a moment, looks like into the final corner. He has a big slide round, and unfortunately for him, it doesn't really matter because he's so far behind from the disconnect. Timon Subic as well going round, and Timon is on the slick tyres. He hits the barrier, bumps the back end as well, just to add insult to injury, and gets going quite quickly again. So that was a good recovery from Timon Subic, but unfortunately his race has not gone to plan today in Micro.
Kirsten has moved into the lead ahead of Eduardo Beninca, who is still on the wets at the moment. So we've had a change for lead. I mean, I have to say, Beninca, I think, has made a mistake on this lap because he had a 6-second margin over Kirsten, and Kirsten is now 3 seconds clear. So it's clear to me that Beninca has had a very, very horrible time of it on this lap.
Here we go with Beninca. Where's he going to lose it? It looks like it's down into the hairpin. Yep. Once again, down onto the hairpin, just locking up a bit, or being a bit too eager on the throttle, sliding round, and he stays still almost for long enough, and then just accelerates into Johnny Gutierrez. Gutierrez is not going to be very happy with that one, is he?
I'm amazed actually that Beninca waited that long before he actually got going. I'm surprised they didn't try and go a little bit sooner. But there is Gutierrez, who's in front of Beninca on the road. This is not for position. But we have got more pit stops now. Ross Smith is the latest to enter the pit lane. We've got Matt Wright, John Mayer and Steve Carman all in. But there's still a lot of time for things to change in this race. Kirsten, I think, is going to be on his way to victory, because now that he's in front of Beninca, it's going to come a point where he's going to end up pulling out a big margin over the others. He might even actually need to pit in again before this race is over, but it's only going to be like a splash and dash.
Kirsten and Beninca both need a splash and dash. It looks like Beninca is going in for his splash and dash now. I wonder if he will change pits. Kirsten has nothing stopping him from wrapping up the win now. If Bradley Sellers and Lumpy change to the soft tyres, they're going to be way behind once Kirsten comes out from the pits. And it looks like Beninca's staying on the wets. Dan Herlock has spun and puts a yellow flag. Ross Smith is in the pits and is staying on the wet tyres.
And it looks like Dan might have pulled over. I mean, he was so far down the field. He was running in like 10th or 11th. And I think Herlock's engine might have blown up on him. And Dan Herlock who has been consistent all the way through this campaign. And it looks like he's parked the car up.
That will be an engine. If Dan he couldn't even get himself bad luck today, just no luck at all. From an easy win to a blown engine with a disconnect in between, you've got to feel for Dan Hurlock today.
So that's game over, unfortunately, for Dan Hurlock, effectively. Yeah, I have to say, John Uyan has remained out there on the wet tyres. Eduardo Beninka has opted to stay on the wets. That's actually very, very brave. I'm actually surprised he's opted to go for that.
So we'll see, Eduardo might be able to steal a podium from Ruta de Bruyne by staying on the wets. It's a gamble where it might shake out. Ross has also stayed on the wets, and we'll have to see what John Uyan does as they're fighting for the over 2 litre lead. Well, Vinicius Gonçalves is 53 seconds behind Ross Smith for the podium.
And John Uyan is destined to make another pit stop before this race is over. And we've got yellow flag actually for Ethan Funk, and George Angelidis, we're being told, I think, has been involved. I wonder if it's over at the hairpin, one driver has spun in front of the other. But there we look at John Uyan for a brief moment before we cut away to see
Past him for position with John Uyan not stopping.
this. This is George Angelidis. This is the corner after the hairpin, where it is absolutely going. He couldn't stop it. He could not stop it.
Locked it up, but something has happened to Ethan Funk as well. Elko Bussing is 5 seconds behind. 20 minutes to go, with Elko Bussing being around a second a lap faster than me. He gained 9 seconds on that last lap. The fight is on like Donkey Kong for the under 2 litre roads.
Yeah, that is John Uyan entering the pit lane now for his final stop. I'm amazed that George Angelidis was able to keep going. That car was just not wanting to turn. He's got his line all horribly wrong for the corner, and they just carried a little bit too much speed. There is Ethan Funk going towards, I think that's turn 14 or 13 rather. It's difficult to tell from that angle. But he had a spin, but was able to continue.
What a tiny little mistake, and that might end up costing Funk the race win if Bussing can close that gap down, as Kirsten is way out in front at the moment, having not stopped yet, and Beninka on his wets has a 2.8 second gap to Sellers, with De Bruyne right with Sellers. So the battle for the podium in the over 2 litre roads is going to be a spicy one, with the two Zach Speed Mustangs on slick tyres and the Ferrari 512 Eduardo Beninka on wets trying to hang on.
Yeah, I think Beninka's struggling, to be honest with you. He's got the 2 Mustangs all over the back of him, or 3 Mustangs actually for that matter, or 2 of them.
Johnny Gutierrez is there as well.
Yeah,
I believe. Is that Johnny? I think that's Johnny behind.
well, Nicholas Kirsten has lapped.
Yeah,
Nicholas Kirsten has lapped Johnny Gutierrez, and Gutierrez is actually 18 seconds off this battle of Beninka, Sellers and De Bruyne.
Behind that, that's Funk and Bussing battling for the lead of the under 2 litre pros. As John Uyan is in the pits, Ross Smith has gone past on his wets. John Uyan is also staying on wets, but we'll see what the gap is when it all shakes out. It looks like this is in Ross's hands. It's his to lose now.
Yeah, absolutely so. I think Ross Smith may have one hand on the race-winning trophy, but remember, he is on the wets compared to John Uyan, who's also on the wets. And the nearest driver behind him is Vinicius Gonçalves, who is on the slick. So we'll have a look at the lap times that they are producing. Smith did he's just done his out lap actually as Smith, but John Uyan's time compared to Gonçalves is something like 1.7 seconds difference. So it's not a big gap, but it's easy for that trajectory to fall into Gonçalves' hands in the final remaining laps of this.
It does appear, looking at the time machine, that Gonçalves still has one more stop to do though, so I think Gonçalves might have a quick splash and dash to do, and we'll see him put right back unfortunately, but he's running well at the moment.
And there is your race leader in your picture, Nicholas Kirsten. Even though it is darkness, he's making his way into the pit lane. He's in.
He should come out way in front. He has a 2-minute 10-second gap, and it's only a splash and dash. 17 minutes to go. So is it what, 8 laps to go?
Oh, Beninka makes a mistake. That's good enough for Sellers to go on through. Sorry to interrupt you there, Becky. That was a mistake from Beninka. And that was all Sellers needed to go on by. And we could potentially see Sellers go into the lead if he can help it. But like you say, Kirsten's got too much in hand to think that he's going to throw this one away. I think this is pretty much Kirsten's race to lose. So we see another yellow flag over in sector
he goes down the inside. De Bruyne is going for it on Eduardo Beninka for the final spot on the podium, and he doesn't quite pull it off. De Bruyne, it's a matter of time, isn't it, on the slick tyres compared to the wets. Eduardo Beninka went for the gamble, and I still maintain that it's a good gamble because he was a long, long way behind Sellers and De Bruyne for the pit stops, and now he's having a good dice slice with them. But it's a matter of time. It's a when, not if, isn't it? That
Yeah.
going to get him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just think with Valtteri Boyne on those wets, I mean, there's just not enough water on the circuit now to try and cool those tyres down. He's going to end up sliding all over the place, De Bruyne, sooner rather than later, because there's not enough grip. But I think George Angelis is also coming for his last stop, so he's going to tumble down the order behind Steve Carman. I think that's the last of those in the over 2 litre AMs, so George Angelis is going to have to.
Vinicius Goncalves still has to pit as well. But yeah, George is staying on the wets as well for his little splash and dash. Timon Suvic is in for his splash and dash. As it looks like Wouter De Bruyne is trying again. It looks like De Bruyne has got Beninka. As we said, there was only a matter of time. Beninka got swirly coming out of him as well, because he tried to get on the power to stop him. And that is game over for Beninka. Podium hopes done and dusted. As Kirsten goes off the track, Kirsten is just still going. He did that earlier on in the race when he had an 85-second lead, didn't he? He has a 46-second lead and he's pushing like crazy.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Beninka's gap over Gutierrez, who is also on the wets. 18 seconds between the pair of them. And the next driver behind, Magnus Dahlgren, has got 24 seconds to make up on the slicks. George Angelis is in the pit lane still at the moment. He's now behind John Mayer, who's been dominating, to be honest with you, in the under 2 litre AMs. So he's on his way to victory in that, because there's no way JT Tammy is going to... not JT Tammy, Christian Dalger, who's a long way back from where he is. Timon Suvic is in, and Vinicius Goncalves has also come in. But I think
that
as far...
that is it for the stops now, with Goncalves in as well.
Which will allow Jerry Chen to move back up into the final podium position in that respective class.
There's Beninka off.
Yeah, that looked like smoke from Beninka. That looked like Beninka's engine may have been going there a little bit. We'll stay in touch with him in case it's anything more terminal. But that looked like a little bit of smoke from the front engine there of that Mustang. And the Ferrari. So it's the Ferrari of Beninka.
Beninka does have a habit of pushing his cars hard. He likes to drive hard. So I would be surprised if he pushed it hard. It could be just kicking up a bit of water from the grass, because the outside the track will still be very wet. And we can see in the background there, Ethan Funk and Elko Bussing, as that battle is getting closer and closer as... there goes Eduardo!
Yeah.
Flipping. That is not how you barrel roll, my friend.
No, and that's enough for Beninka to go over the sand pit, and that could be race over for Beninka, because I'd imagine that car is going to take some damage. But that's the thing, when you stay on the wets on a dry circuit, you're not going to have anywhere near as much grip as you would do on the slicks, and that'll be good enough for Johnny Gutierrez to move up into 4th place and Magnus Dahlgren into 5th.
The only consolation for Beninka there is he didn't get stuck on the icy sand, because that sand is like ice, as we saw Mike Bell get stuck on it and blow his engine trying to get off, and it looks like he's clear on that. So he may have fallen behind Gutierrez, but it could have been a lot worse.
Retirement for John Mayer. So John Mayer, who's the runaway leader in the under 2 AMs, or under 2 litre AMs, has gone no further. I don't know what's happened to him, but that is the latest twist in this race in that respective class.
That is a massive twist for the championship. He would have gained 20 points on Matt Overton. Instead, Christian Dalga is going to join them in the championship battle. As he was 20 points behind the two.
Was it a disconnect or was it an engine blow up for John Mayer? We'll find out sooner rather than later. But that long lead he had has completely gone out of the window. And even if he was to get back into this race, he's going to fall way too far behind Christian Dauger, unless Dauger has a problem in the closing stage. He's got another yellow flag over in sector 3.
If John Mayer can get back into the race, though, he comes second, which is 19 points, which is still huge for the championship. And we're seeing what's happening right now. He's behind the barriers. He's hit the tyre.
He caught the tyre barrier as he came into the corner, so he turned in a little too soon. That's the dangers of racing in the dark round here at Sebring.
It is. I guess he must have blown the engine instantly to stop there. That's really unfortunate for John Mayer. What looked like it was going to be a commanding championship lead, and now, as long as Christian Dauger can come home as the lone finisher in the uncompleted app, he's going to be joint top overall as we see a replay of Elko Bussing, who had finally caught up with Ethan Funk, have an issue, a little lock-up, and he's having to avoid. That is panic over for Ethan Funk as Bussing had been catching up. The gap's now 15 seconds.
Looks like he snatched a rear brake on entry there, did Elko Bussing, but at least he went round the barriers instead of going into them. And we've got 10 minutes remaining, just over. And it's Nicholas Kirsten who's got a 45-second lead. He's played the strategy to perfection, but of course it could all change with one big error, as what we saw from John Mayer a moment ago.
It absolutely could. And we've seen Nicholas Kirsten not stop pushing for any reason at all. Well, we've seen him on the grass many times, so there still is time for something to happen there, and we still might have a bit of excitement, which would lead to great excitement as Sellers and De Bruyn would then be fighting for the lead with less than a second between them, between the two teammates.
19 cars are left in the race now. JT Tammy has gone up into 19th position. He's actually 12 seconds off Christian Dauger, who at least that's something for Tammy to fight with in the closing laps of this. We've probably got around about 4 laps to go the next time Nicholas Kirsten crosses over the line, but we're looking at the battle for second place between Bradley Sellers and Wouter De Bruyn, who are both now on the 6th, unlike Johnny Gutierrez and Eduardo Beninca, who has been able to continue Becky since the off that he had. He's got 20 seconds in hand over Magnus Dahlgren.
Yep, it's a nice gap for Eduardo. He's going to be head down though, trying to get that place back on Gutierrez with only a 3-second gap. As Wouter De Bruyn and Bradley Sellers go side by side, Wouter De Bruyn goes past on the start-finish straight, going into turn 1 round the outside. Bradley Sellers couldn't do anything as De Bruyn slipped clean past. Is he going to be able to fight back into turn 3? No, well, he has to back off.
Yeah, this is turn 2. They're going through. Terrell Bend is turn 3, which they're entering now. De Bruyn in second place ahead of his teammate. They are coming up to a back marker now as well. Can't quite tell from that angle who that
one
is.
One of the prizes, either John Urian or George Angelidis. He looks a bit beat up, so I'm going to guess it's George Angelidis, because he's been a bit more in the wars this race. So probably, yeah, I believe it is George. No, it's John.
It's got to be John Urian, yeah. That's John.
So John Urian will get out of the way. He is a very, very respected driver. As they goes, slowing down, letting through. But it looks like
Sellers got back in front of De Bruyn.
Has taken advantage of that.
Yeah, and Sellers is back through into second place. Alan Smith coming in for a splash and dash now as well. That might help JT Tammy move up a position, considering the disconnect he had earlier. But he's Smith is in for his final, so it should be a relatively quicker one compared to most. And from what Dan Herlock has had to say in the chat,
Dan has said that gutted network dropped out, and when I rejoined I had the wrong radiator tape, so it went boom. Oh, poor Dan. That's both his drop races used, because last time out he got stuck behind someone in the pits and stuck for 2 minutes, so you can see how quickly fortunes can turn after Dan Herlock had an extremely consistent first 3 races, coming second in every race. The last 2 races have been disaster with no fault of his own. And
John Mayer is showing that he's in the pits right now, so he could well still get back into this race, depending on the amount of damage he's having to repair. But I think with the amount of time left in the race, it's probably unlikely he'll get back into it. Yellow flag in set 2 of the lap, which has gone away very, very quickly. It's just Basink who's had a moment here. There he is in that green machine there. Oh, my goodness me. It almost looked like he didn't make the corner. And he's going to go over the sandpit. And, yeah, it looks like he's beached it this time. Yeah, that's race over.
He's beached it on the ice. He's going to have to disconnect and rejoin. He's lost his front splitter and beached it on the ice.
It's disaster there.
Elko is still there. I hope he's not just spinning the wheels and going to blow up the engine.
He's kind of got it over, but I am worried that he's going to end up over. Oh, that's it. That is that Beninka? That's Christian Delgo who's gone for a spin there, and that is Basink just beat on the sandpit there. And we're going to see, and yeah, that's a spin for Christian Delgo. That was a little bit of smoke actually from the engine. I don't know if it's from the water or whether it's smoke, but he's got it going again.
I hope it's from the water, similar to Eduardo Beninka. And Elko Busink has retired. Is he going to come back?
I would guess
That's
not.
A big question. I hope he is going to come back because there's still points on the table. He might come out in a similar position to JT Tammy, so they can still have that battle that never was.
Yeah, we've had a lot of drivers pull out of this one, and Basink adds his name to it, and that has promoted Matt Wright up into second place in the under 2 litre pro class. And I think Alan Smith, despite the pit stop he's just made a moment ago, he's going to move up into the final podium position. So hats off to Alan Smith for that. And JT Tammy, we're just waiting for a gap actually to appear, although he is showing us 3 laps down compared to Smith, who is 2 laps down on the overall leaders. I think it's likely that Smith is going to take that final podium position, but never say never. As we see, that's Ross Smith, is it, that we are focusing on?
That is Ross Smith I assume he's letting Kirsten by. Yeah, he's letting Kirsten by as Kirsten goes through in the lead. So that will help Ross out for fuel, as it means he's 1 lap less of fuel. And we've just got, with Kirsten going through, that's going to be 2 laps to go.
Yep, 2 laps indeed for race leader Nicholas Kirsten, on course to make it a hat-trick of wins in the virtual World Sportscar Championship of 1981. He won last time at Riverside, he won also the round before at Monza, and he's about to do so again here in Sebring, providing he doesn't trip over anyone else here. He's got a 41-second lead over Valtteri De Bruyne. He's still got Bradley Sellers on his tail.
I was going to say, De Bruyne has just got back past Bradley Sellers because we last saw Sellers in front. When they lapped John Uyan, Sellers had his optimistic move, but De Bruyne is back in front, or is he? There goes Sellers. That through the last corner on the inside, both of them squirming to get the power down. And it looks like Sellers has got him, or can De Bruyne get him back into turn 1?
Well, we'll see soon enough. That is Sellers back into second place again. Absolutely do or die stuff between the pair of them. It's almost like the bit between your teeth, the way you look at these two fighting as they have been for the last 20 minutes or so. But there is Sellers.
Ding-dong, isn't it, between Sellers and De Bruyne?
Yeah.
Can De Bruyne get him back?
I can see that Kirsten's losing time, but I think he's happy to just take it easy from here on in. Even if he lost 30 seconds or so in the last 2 laps, he'll still hold on to take the victory.
It's good to see him actually back off. When he was going so fast, when he had a 45-second lead, I got a bit worried for him. So he's just taking it easy and just bringing home the win. He could lose 15 seconds a lap and he'd be fine.
And there are the drivers in second and third places in this one. Johnny Gutierrez is Johnny Gutierrez is another 37 seconds off, and I think John Mayer has called it quits now actually, because he did have that accident earlier. It almost looked like he was going to rejoin back into the race, but unfortunately not. So he is now gone. Elko Basink, much to your wishes, Becky, has rejoined the race, now in 4th position in class.
Well done, Elko. Picking up some good points. Still a big gap between him and Tammy. That just shows the disaster of Tammy's getting stuck on his roof, doesn't it?
Yep. That is Sellers running wide, and De Bruyne gets him again. These two continuing to dice it out. Unbelievably so.
Battle. This is fantastic, isn't it, between the teammates? Showing much more restraint than when Formula 1 drivers fight each other, aren't they? Where they normally crash into each other at this point, swapping so many times.
Watch out for Magnus Dahlgren as well, Becky, because he's on slicks compared to Gutierrez and Beninka. The gap is now 10 or 11 seconds between Beninka and Dahlgren. Looking at the lap times between Beninka and Dahlgren, Dahlgren's done a time that was 4 seconds quicker than what Beninka has done. So the battle for 4th position may not be done and dusted just yet. But Kirsten has now started the final lap of the race whilst we focus on the battle for 2nd.
I think, unfortunately for Dahlgren, I'd love to see him close down and have a last-minute ding-dong. But he's got 11.5 seconds with less than 2 laps to go and only 4 seconds a lap faster. It's not going to happen as we're watching Kirsten cruise to victory after the strategy really paid off. He had to battle through the horrendously wet track, slipping aside everywhere with his slicks on, and it's really paid dividends today.
Here we go again. There is De Bruyne and Sellers. De Bruyne is in front of Sellers once more with less than a lap remaining, and that's going to go right all the way to the line. It could even be a drag race if they can help it. Johnny Gutierrez is looking good for 4th position in the race and in class. Beninka is doing his utmost to try and stay in touch with him, but he wants to hold on to 5th place ahead of Magnus Dahlgren, who is the last driver on the lead lap. And Ross Smith, with a comfortable margin over John Uyan, is on the brink of taking victory in the over 2 litre AMS. We've got a pit stop over Ethan Funk. Clearly not enough fuel.
Yep, got the fuel calculations wrong. Is that going to allow Matt Wright to steal a victory? I don't think it is, but the pit stops do take a long time, even to put one. There goes Wouter de Bruyn! Wouter de Bruyn has spun out at the hairpin, and Bradley Sellers goes through. What an unfortunate way to lose 2nd place for Wouter de Bruyn.
Horrible luck for Wouter de Bruyn there. Just got on the brakes a little too much, and that was all Sellers needed to head on through into 2nd place, as we see a replay of Wouter de Bruyn completely drop it on the brakes. There was no contact made, I don't think, or was there?
I don't think there was. I think you just lost it on the brakes. So easy to do. I did the exact same thing at the exact same corner 2 years ago in the historics here when fighting for the lead right at the end on the 1.5 lap. So I definitely feel de Bruyn's pain.
Yeah, and there we see your race leader, Nicholas Kirsten, is on his way to a brilliant victory as Basink has just retired, but we'll come to that in a moment. But there we see Nicholas Kirsten coming out of Sunset Bend for the last time, and it's going to be the hat-trick of wins. It was victory at Monza, it was victory at Riverside, it's going to be victory at Sebring for Nicholas Kirsten, who takes the checkered flag first after 2 hours of running in tricky conditions. He made the strategy work, and it's a comfortable victory. And Bradley Sellers is going to head over the line in 2nd position, but there is Ross Smith, who takes the honours in the over 2 litre AMS. A comfortable performance again from him. John Uyan will cross over the line in 2nd place. Ethan Funk did get out in front of Matt Wright convincingly after that splash and dash, so he's going to hold on to the under 2 litre pro victory. And over the line it should be Christian Dauger. I don't know if he's crossed over the line yet, but he's going to win out as the only driver to finish in the under 2 litre AMS. There he is at the back straight, coming round the last corner in a moment. Christian Dauger, I think, may have come into the pit lane actually to get a splash and dash, but it's race over for him. He is the winner in that respective class. There is Ethan Funk, who's going to come round in a moment. He's got one more corner to get through, but it's going to be victory for him. Well done to Bradley Sellers for 2nd place, and Wouter de Bruyn will be kicking himself with that mistake on the last lap.
Absolutely fantastic for Ethan Funk to bring that home in the lead. He just is keeping it going, just doing your own thing and let everyone else fall off around you. It's worked for JT Tammy in previous races, but JT Tammy has wanted to fall off this time as Ethan Funk round the last corner to take a lovely win in the under 2 litre pro. It's his first of the season. Will it be a first of many? But he continues the Lancia domination in that class, where they have won every single race.
Yeah, we're going to see a replay. Is this Elko Basink who's had a moment on the last lap? I think it is, and this is over. Oh, he's gone off a long way. Oh, he's gone into the barriers big time there. The Armco was just waiting. That was before the hairpin. So Ilko Basink's eventful race had ended in the barriers. I don't know if he'll still get points because he's completed most of the race distance. But we'll find out.
Unfortunately, will not get points. You have to cross the line. So he will miss out on all of the points for 5th place and get a big fat 0, which I feel very sorry for Elko Basink for.
Yeah. Let's. I don't know if everyone's crossed over the line, but if so, let's have a look at the race result. This is in the over 2 litre pros. Nicholas Kirsten coming out on top with Bradley Sellers in second place. And it's Wouter de Bruyne who makes it to the podium. At least both of the Retro Monsters drivers make it to the top three. Johnny Gutierrez fourth on the wets ahead of Eduardo Beninca, who's able to hold off Magnus Dahlgren to the end, with Timon Suvik, the last of those in that respective class, able to finish. Unlike Dan Herlock, we've also lost Oliver Day and Mike Bell. And Gilles Lalonde also didn't make it to the end. Let's have a look at the over 2 litre AMS. Ross Smith is the convincing winner over John Uyan, with Vinicius Goncalves making it to the podium. Jerry Chen down to fourth place after his shenanigans earlier. Then we've got Steve Carman and George Angelidis making it to the end, unlike Max Petrovsky and Jerry Smith didn't even start the race. In the under 2 litre pros, Ethan Funk coming out on top despite that splash and dash at the end, holding off Matt Wright and Alan Smith. JT Tummy, who had that disconnect earlier, was able to rejoin the race and finish in fourth position. Elko Basink crashed out. Alex Schultz didn't make it to the end, and neither did Dan Fowler. And finally, we'll look at the under 2 litre AMS, and it is, as we look, well, we can tell you that
the under 2 litre AMS is just Christian Dalga, who was the only finisher, and that's going to bring the under litre 2 AM championship extraordinarily close. Whereas John Mayer and Matthew Overton were on 58 and 56, Christian Dalga on 38. He's going to join them on 58, being level with John Mayer, 2 in front of Matt Overton, the only finisher tonight.
Yeah, Christian Dozer, the only finisher, but at least he's come out with some good points, and that's going to change things in the championship. There you look at the calendar as well. After we've been to Sebring, Riverside, Monza, Mugello, and Daytona. The next round will be at Le Mans. Just to correct myself, it's not Watkins Glen that's the next round. It's Le Mans on April the 11th. Then we go to Watkins Glen, Spa in August, along with Road America. Silverstone, Nürburgring, Pagusa, and Daytona, Motorsport Park, and Brands Hatch will round out the season. Shall we get a word with some drivers, Becky, and discuss about their races?
Absolutely. Who would you like to bring in first? We've got the over 2 litre pro or the over 2 litre AM winners.
We'll go from back to front. We'll have a word with Ross Smith first, who came out on top in the over 2 litre AM class. Ross, that was a rather tricky race all round for the whole field. How was it from your perspective? How did you find it?
Tricky.
With a dog barking in the background, he seems very pleased with you.
yeah, very excited. Yeah, no, that was definitely one for the books. As soon as the rain started, I knew the dynamic was going to change completely, but fortunately the strategy didn't alter too much. You know, we knew that it was going to be fuel or nothing, and just staying out of trouble. And Vinicius did a fantastic job bringing it in for third, so we wrapped out the podium. So very pleased with all that for the team points.
Yeah, and of course it changes a lot in the standings, and that was a good win for you. But how have you found the 1981 machine today compared to maybe how the 1985 machines of last year? Because we've had 5 rounds now. We're a third of the way through this season. But would you say it's been a step up for you compared to the 85 machines, or do you feel like there's still more to find in these 81 cars?
Certainly more to find, and that's going to keep going as we go on. But I think at this point, we've got a fairly decent idea of just how the cars kind of line up to one another, and we'll see what BOP does down the line. But I mean, I feel like cars that are less aero dependent are a little bit more my bread and butter. So this is, I'd say, probably a step more in my favor compared to the 85s. I love them both, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, but 5 weeks from now until the next round in Le Mans. What have you got lined up between now and then?
Just kind of getting some practice and hoping to get a few updates in here. Ben Borman did a fantastic job putting the updated Lotus body together, so it'll look a little bit more authentic, less of a shoebox. So hoping to get all that in there, and of course getting the WSC 2023 mod wrapped up by the end of this month, so it can actually go into the Steam Workshop for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah. Anyone on the shout out to Ross before we let you go?
Again, Vinicius doing a great job wrapping it up for the team. George, John, Matthew, Don, all the SGS team. Jerry Chen and all those guys during the race. We had a really fun time going back and forth there. And for CMS and you guys, everybody coming out and putting this thing together, it's always fantastic to have a good show and a good race.
Excellent. Ross, I'll let you go. Well done today on picking up the class win, and best of luck for Le Mans in 5 weeks from now.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
You too as well, Ross. Thank you very much. We'll get a word with the Under 2 Pro winner, Under 2 Litre Pro winner, I should say. That is Ethan Funk in a topsy-turvy race that had all its twists. You were the one that came out on top.
Hello, yeah. How are you doing?
We're not too bad, thank you. I think we're being treated to a really, really interesting race in changeable conditions from day to darkness, dry to wet, and then back to dry. It was quite a lottery. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, it was a handful. Such a race of attrition. Yeah, I'm really just, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I just, with the barriers nearby and with the headlights needed to be put on, we've obviously had the rain that came in. It's just like so much can possibly go wrong in that race. We saw drivers even barrel rolling. We saw drivers just missing their braking points, locking the rears because they can't necessarily see the slower speed corners. Was it that tricky for you out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it just was getting wet. I went off the track more times than I can count. But it went worse for others. So I guess I'm here now.
Absolutely so, and imagine that'll do your points total no harm whatsoever. And we've got a 5-week gap between now and Le Mans. What have you got lined up between now and then? Are you involved in the Modern Championship as well?
No, I don't think I've ever done a race in the Moderns. Maybe I should look into it though.
I would imagine so, because I think it's quite a popular one within the drivers. There's a lot of brilliant machinery in there for you to check out. Anyone want to shout out to Ethan before we let you go?
Absolutely, like the whole team who made these cars and who host this championship. It's just so good, so good. I'm so glad that I made my way here when I started sim racing.
Wonderful. Well, Ethan, congrats on your victory today in class, and best of luck for Le Mans in 5 weeks.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
You too as well, Ethan. And that was Ethan Funk who took victory in the Under 2 Litre Pros. And we'll get a word now from the man who's come out on top, ultimately making the strategy work. It's the hat trick of wins for Nicholas Kirsten. I just hope we get to hear from him. I think he's got his mic unmuted now. Nicholas, you've nailed the strategy today with staying out on the slicks. I don't recall you going on the wets at all in that one, unless you want to correct me with that.
That's correct. I stayed on the slicks because shortly before my second pit stop, I noticed that it stopped to rain, and it was an obvious decision to just try to survive some more laps until the track dries out.
Yeah. How did you find this experience to, let's say, Monza? Because we had changeable conditions there along with here, but did you notice anything different with this one compared to what we had at Monza?
The track felt much more slippery and was much more difficult to stay on the track here, I think. Actually, I went off the track multiple times. Quite tricky.
I'd imagine so. And we've got Le Mans next, which I'm sure is a circuit that you absolutely love with a passion. What is going to be the key to success then? Because it's 3 wins in a row now for you. You'd think you'd be going for 4 in a row, won't you?
That's a goal, obviously. I think with this point system, consistency is more important than wins. So I will just try to be in the top 3 or whatever.
And I mean, of that brilliant 2 hours of running, and I'm sure you've had some supporters tuning in to watch. Is there anyone in the shout out to, Nicholas, before we let you go?
No one special, just thanks to you for doing the broadcast and to all the organizers.
Thank you, and that means a lot actually to both me, Becky, and of course Paul, who's been working behind the scenes as well. And I think Peter Davis is coming in chat saying to congratulate you on the win as well. So I'm sure you'll thank him for that. Nicholas, very, very well done. A fantastic victory today, and we hope you can continue that form over at Le Mans next month.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Bye.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. And that rounds out all of those who have joined in for a chat. And Becky, wow, I don't think we've expected that kind of race here at Sebring. We thought maybe it was going to be quite maybe a dominance or, from start to finish from some of those in class. But I think when you look at the championship standings prior to today's race has very much aligned with how the championship has been shaping up.
I would tend to disagree with you on that one, actually. I think it was a big shake-up for the championship today with Herlock having the disconnecting engine blowing. That was 20 points. He would have leveled himself with Nicholas Kirsten. Instead, he's going to find himself 21 points behind, whilst Eduardo Beninca lost out on a few more points to Nicholas Kirsten, making that gap even bigger. His teammate Alexander Schmoldi didn't show up, so that leaves Kirsten and Beninca with a big lead over Herlock and Smeraldi, and that's going to be hard to regain with the way the points are. As Nicholas Kirsten said, he just needs to consistently keep getting good results now after these 3 wins in a row to have a very strong chance of winning the championship.
Absolutely so, and Kirsten's win has very much stretched the margin in the championship, considering Herlock has failed to finish today. And looking at John Uyan, whose gap over Ross Smith will have come down slightly as well. Jerry Chen did pick up points, but Traffy did not, so he's dropped back in the standings. JT Tammy's error will have seen his lead being shrunk by Ethan Funk, and in the under 2 litre AMS, John Mayer's margin over the likes of Christian Doga would have been pretty much wiped out. So it's all to play for at Le Mans next time out. Well, after an eventful race, we've been treated to something absolutely brilliant here at Sebring. And well done to all of our class winners today. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Do make sure you like and subscribe, if I could get my words out there. And that way you won't miss a thing. You can keep up to date with all the action within the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, with all the races, both in the modern and historics as well. And that leaves me to say thank you very much for tuning in. And we'll do it all again next time out in Le Mans and in 5 weeks' time. And thank you to Becky as well for taking the time to commentate alongside us, and also to Paul behind the scenes. We'll do it over again in 5 weeks' time when the Virtual World Sports Car Championship Historics returns. And for me, Tom Cairns, it's good night.